Chapter 2256. The owner of the arena bang. 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 Even so, Prince Lanling was still losing ground. However, the more he fought, the braver he became. Great! You are indeed the #1 warrior under me. Someone suddenly shouted. It was Wu Qingzi. Prince Lanling was obviously a scout under Wu Qingzi. Hence, Wu Qingzi felt proud of him. Lin Ling was also moved. That was because Prince Lanling was fighting with his life on the line. Even though he knew that he couldn't win, he insisted on fighting until he was exhausted. What a stubborn character. He is just like me when I was young. Lin Ling finally used 10% of his boundary essence and defeated Prince Lanling easily. Finally, the commander used his boundary essence. Prince Lanling only had one objective. That was to let Lin Ling defeat him with his boundary essence. That was a form of affirmation to him. Although he was weak, he had his dignity. He couldn't let Master Lin Ling look down on him. Which barracks are you from? After defeating Prince Lanling, Lin Ling looked at Prince Lanling and asked. Master, I am from the scout camp. I belong to Wu Qingzi. Although Prince Lanling was injured, he still went down on one knee. Very good. From today onwards, you will be in my barracks. Lin Ling smiled and turned to leave. Really? Prince Lanling was elated. He knew how proud it was to be able to enter Lin Ling's barracks. Among all the scouts, the soldiers in Lin Ling's barracks were of the highest status. Now, he had the chance to do so. Many scouts stared at Prince Lanling enviously. This guy actually made Master Lin Ling happy. He was too lucky. Lin Ling, don't go overboard. He is my soldier. Prince Lanling, I dare you to betray me. At this moment, Wu Qingzi roared in anger. Lin Ling had snatched his soldier in front of everyone. This was a humiliation to him. Your position is lower than mine. You are not qualified to speak to me. Stop. However, Lin Ling said with disdain. His words made Wu Qingzi tremble in anger, but he had nothing to say. His position is lower than mine, so he has no right to speak to me. What kind of contempt was this? On arena number 9, Lin Ling had undoubtedly become the focus of attention. However, Lin Ling's luck was not very good. Not long after he left the stage, it was his turn again. His opponent was a rank 8 martial emperor. His boundary essence seemed to have exceeded 20%, but not 30%. As soon as his opponent appeared, he looked at Lin Ling with a serious expression. He didn't think that he could win, but he wanted Commander Lin Ling to pay the price. Lord Lin Ling, you don't want to defeat me so easily. His opponent was the first to speak. He was thin and weak, but his eyes were filled with pride. Oh! Lin Ling looked at him with interest. It's Commander Zhang Jie. Finally, a commander is going to fight Lin Ling. From what I can tell, this battle is going to be very exciting. However, Commander Lin Ling will win. It's just a question of how he'll win. Many soldiers' blood was boiling. Lin Ling had become a thorn in their side because of his fame. Everyone wanted to see how strong Lin Ling was, and some wanted to see Lin Ling defeated. There were all kinds of thoughts. You can't defeat me. Lin Ling naturally heard the voices around him, but he didn't care. I know, but it won't be easy for you to win. Zhang Jie activated his boundary essence. The law was thousands of spears and tens of thousands of arrows. In the end, it formed the power of the boundary essence, which was extremely condensed. It seemed that he was not far from converting 30% of his boundary essence. Of course, he also knew that it would be very difficult to defeat Lin Ling with his current boundary essence. The strength of the boundary essence doesn't mean that the more you control, the better. Instead, you have to be familiar with the control. This is like being familiar with the power of a boundary essence. Therefore, the more familiar you are with the control of the boundary essence, the more chances you have to turn defeat into victory. A black boundary essence spear appeared in Zhang Jie's hand. It was like a lightning spear, erupting with a terrifying aura. Hearing this, Lin Ling was a little stunned. "You are giving me pointers?" He could hear that Zhang Jie's words carried a hint of pointers. "It's not pointers, I'm just expressing some of my opinions. Of course, you don't have to care, because victory or defeat will prove everything," Zhang Jie immediately said. Although his words were a little modest, to put it bluntly, he was still giving Lin Ling pointers. Spear leaf boundary essence. Then, he threw his spear at Lin Ling, causing the void to explode. Many soldiers were stunned, and then they cheered wildly. So that's how it is, that's how it is. When the control of the boundary essence reached a certain level, it would break out of the body and form a long-range attack. So this was what Zhang Jie meant before. To be able to make the boundary essence break out of the body, from a certain point of view, as long as he wasn't approached by the enemy, he would be invincible. "Commander Zhang Jie, do your best. Who knows, maybe he'll win." The soldiers who didn't know the situation were all in high spirits. However, the faces of falling flowers, flowing water and the others were ugly. Boundary essence? If they remembered correctly, Lin Ling had already reached this level when he killed the Lord of the Commandery on the prairie. Commander Zhang Jie was obviously looking for the wrong person to act tough. Boom! The boundary essence blasted into the arena, forming the power of a world explosion. Success? Zhang Jie was stunned. He seemed to have hit Lin Ling. Although Lin Ling's strength was stronger, as long as he was hit by the boundary essence, he should be seriously injured even if he didn't die. This meant that he seemed to have won. He defeated the Grand Commander. Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth cracked open, and he couldn't help but laugh excitedly. Of course, his laughter didn't last long. In the distance, a figure appeared. It was Lin Ling. Reciprocity demands reciprocity. You gave me pointers before, so I'll give you pointers as well. Although the boundary energy can break out of the body and kill enemies from thousands of miles away, please, you still need to be accurate. I stood there for half a day, and your boundary energy spear actually only shot at my feet. You should cultivate for a few more years. After saying this, Lin Ling punched out, and he also released his boundary essence. However, the fist-shaped boundary essence was as fast as an arrow, and it was fatal. Bang! Zhang Jie's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, he was hit in the chest and smashed outside the arena. However, at this moment, he wanted nothing more than to dig 3 feet into the ground and hide. Because he had lost, and this wasn't a big deal. The main thing was that not only was his strength weak, but he actually dared to act tough. He thought he could release his boundary essence, so he gave Lin Ling some pointers. However, Lin Ling showed him what it meant to release boundary essence. This Commander Zhang Jie is too interesting. He thinks he can create a miracle. I'm dying of laughter. He said it so well before, but in the end, he was slapped in the face by Lord Lin Ling. As expected, mocking laughter sounded. Commander Zhang Jie roared angrily, held his face, and ran away. Shameful, so shameful. Lin Ling shook his head and smiled. These battles were only a warm-up. As for falling flowers and flowing water, they narrowed their eyes. Until now, they still couldn't see through Lin Ling's strength. This made them very disappointed. Chapter 2257. After 500 moves, the outcome was decided. The number of people in the 10 arenas gradually decreased. Basically, those who remained were the strongest among the commanders. And Lin Ling was fighting for the 3rd time. The opponent wasn't weak at all, having 30% of realm essence, also a leader. Everyone thought that this battle would be very exciting, but the commander of the archers directly admitted defeat. Although his world essence was stronger than Commander Zhang Jie's, his comprehension of world essence was very weak. He couldn't unleash his attacks. But Lin Ling could. This meant that he could only be a living rake. Thus, Lin Ling became the master of the 9th arena. Everything was well deserved. Many of the soldiers began to daydream. For Lin Ling to be able to become a great commander, it seemed that his strength was indeed not weak. However, the battles of the commanders in the other arenas were also extremely exciting. Especially in the battle of Falling Flowers and Flowing Water, his opponent was Ling Wulai. Needless to say, this battle was extremely exciting. Ling Wulai, the number 1 boat commander, Falling Flower Flowing Water Sword, the number 1 scout commander. This was also a clash between two number 1 commanders. Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword. Among the commanders of the scouts, only you are worthy of my attention. Facing you, I only have 50% confidence. Before the battle began, Ling Wulai's voice was heard. Hearing this, Dimo and the others snorted coldly. If the Falling Flowers and Flowing Water Sword was the first commander of the scouts, then what were they? Trash? Just thinking about it made him unhappy. Thank you, but don't think that I will look down on you just because you complimented me. Blossoming Flowing Water Sword said indifferently, but his face was still filled with pride. Like Dimo and Wu Qingzi, they are indeed weak. Oh, I forgot to mention. And that Commander Lin Ling, he is not worthy of my attention. Of course, he is a commander and not a scout commander, so he is not my opponent. Ling Wulai said again. After that, he glanced at Dimo and the others, including Lin Ling, with contempt. What? Falling Flower Flowing Water Sword is the number 1 scout? Then what about Commander Lin Ling? Who knows? Anyway, Ling Wulai is not weak. If he is afraid of the Falling Flowers Water Sword, then the Falling Flowers Water Sword must be stronger. As for Lin Ling, didn't you see? He was just lucky. His opponents in arena number 9 were not strong. If he met Ling Wulai, he would definitely lose. The crowd made all kinds of noises, as if they all agreed that Blossoming Flowing Water Sword was the best scout. As for Lin Ling, he only had the advantage of a position. Let's fight. The two of them quickly intertwined. Staring at the arena, Lin Ling immediately shook his head. That guy called Scoundrel Ling really had a pair of dog eyes. Hee, Lord Lin Ling, it seems that you can only be arrogant in front of soldiers and ordinary commanders. In front of the number 1 commander, you can't even enter their eyes. Next to him, the chess boy immediately laughed gloatingly. Of course, in fact, I also think that Blossoming Flowing Water Sword is the number 1 commander. Maybe even Dimo is stronger than Lin Ling. Tang Yue said, as if she wanted to see the world in chaos. But Blossoming Flowing Water Sword is really powerful. He is the successor of the 10 Sword Celestials in Green Province. He has been the number 1 genius since he was a child. Of course, he is now the number 1 genius. Of course, after laughing, the chess boy said with admiration. Nonsense. Lord Lin Ling hasn't fought yet. It's too early to say this. Lu Qingfeng, who was next to him, was dissatisfied. Hee, that's because your vision is too narrow. Wait until you see Blossoming Flowing Water Swords fight, then you will know how powerful he is. The chess boy smiled disdainfully, which made it difficult for Lu Qingfeng to refute. In this case, how about a bet? If I defeat any one of them, the black and white chess pieces on your body will belong to me. As for Tang Yue, the jade token on your waist will belong to me. How about that? At this moment, Lin Ling suddenly said with a smile. When the two of them heard this, their faces immediately changed. This was because the things that Lin Ling mentioned were extremely precious. They were left behind by their masters. You don't dare? Lin Ling smiled again. He could naturally see that those treasures were extraordinary. If they were used to forge the tyrannical song sword, it would be even more powerful. Why wouldn't I dare? However, Tang Yue quickly nodded her head. She wasn't being generous, but she felt that it was impossible for Lin Ling to win. All right, if I lose, then from now on, I will call you lords whenever I see you. How about that? Seeing that the other party had taken the bait, Lin Ling continued to tempt them. You are the great commander, our superior. You have to call us lords whenever you see us. This is a good bet. The chess boy and Tang Yue looked at each other and immediately laughed excitedly. How about another bet? I say that they will be evenly matched within 500 moves. After 500 moves, the victor will be decided. Do you dare? Lin Ling said again. Lord Lin Ling, aren't you being too arrogant? The chess boy exclaimed. In a battle between martial artists, unless there was a huge gap between their realms, it was difficult to determine how many moves one would lose. For example, if the opponent was not in the right state, or if one was careless, it was possible to lose within 10 moves. Let's bet. Tang Yue nodded her head and stared at Lin Ling. She wanted to see how Lin Ling would die. Great. The loser will have tea and back massage. Lin Ling clapped his hands and said. Tang Yue and the rest nodded their heads. They would definitely win this bet. However, the result was unexpected. In the arena, Luo Hua and Tang Yue didn't meet force with force at the beginning. Instead, they met force with force. Obviously, both of them were very cautious. In this way, 100 moves passed quietly. Next, the boundary essences collided and it was another 100 moves. When 30% of their boundary essences erupted, 400 moves had passed. There were excited cheers all around. The battle was extremely exciting, but Tang Yue and the rest were sweating profusely. Gradually, 450 moves. 460. 70. 80. When it was 499 moves, Ling Wulai showed signs of losing. The chess boy and the rest laughed. Was he going to lose? However, at the critical moment, Ling Wulai erupted with 50% of his boundary essence. This was a boundary essence martial art. Amazing. It's a mid-grade boundary essence martial art. No wonder Ling Wulai is the commander. Wait, look. Luo Hua and Tang Yue also attacked. He also has a mid-grade boundary essence martial art. They have exchanged 3 moves. Sigh, Ling Wulai is going to lose. The crowd kept cheering. Finally, after 502 moves, Ling Wulai was defeated. How did you know it would end after 500 moves? Tang Yue stared at the arena. She couldn't help but scream. Lin Ling was too godly. Lin Ling didn't explain. He said slowly, prepare tea and back massage. Also, prepare tea for Lu Qingfeng and the rest. You bastard. I am a princess. A princess doesn't need tea? You are ruthless. After the fierce battle ended, the soldiers saw Tang Yue and the other 2 commanders pouring tea for Lin Ling and the others and massaging their backs like slaves. Tang Yue was the princess of one of the 4 upper commanderies and the disciple of a chess boy. Both of them were proud and arrogant. Yet, they were pouring tea for Lin Ling. It was a rare scene. Don't use too much strength. Are you trying to kill me? Sigh. Lin Ling sat on the chair and said lazily. At this moment, he had the demeanor of a commander. You are a bastard. Sigh. Chapter 2258. Coward. Tang Yue, let's put up with it. Lin Ling is going to fight Falling Flower Flowing Water Sword. If he loses, we'll take back the humiliation we suffered today. Qi Tong said reluctantly. He noticed that many people were laughing at them. Lin Ling was naturally too lazy to pay attention to their whispering. His gaze was fixed on the arena. That Falling Flowers and Flowing Water Sword was indeed quite capable. He hoped to see how powerful his sword was. Awesome! You deserve to be the first scout commander. I'm convinced. Ling Wulai walked down from the arena and said. He had already regarded Falling Flower Flowing Water Sword as the first scout commander. He looked at Dimo and Lin Ling and said, "You should believe what I said. You're not as good as me. How can you defeat Falling Flower Flowing Water Sword?" Dimo and the others all looked solemn. At this moment, they were somewhat convinced. However, Lin Ling shook his head. He didn't want to talk nonsense with this arrogant guy. The second round was over. The 10 commanders had become the most dazzling existences. However, the third round was coming. It was the last round. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you are in the last 10. There is a rule in the third round. Those who are eliminated can challenge one of the 10 people. If the challenged person loses, then they will be eliminated. This rule is to tell you not to think that you are infallible. The old man riding the Kailan said indifferently. In the third round, everyone has to fight 3 battles. After the eliminated person challenges 1 battle, the remaining 2 battles will be fought among the 10 people. Are you dissatisfied? After that voice drifted out, many people nodded, and they became even more excited. Lin Ling also nodded. This rule was very fair. As for the great commanders and other experts, they became serious. The previous battles were child's play. This was the most exciting battle. Okay, let's draw lots to choose the order of battle. 10 ancient steels floated in the sky. There were no words on the steels. Words would only appear after the selection was made. They were from 1 to 10. The first one would have the right to choose his opponent. After that, the 10 people who were about to fight began to draw lots. When it was Lin Ling's turn, his left eye silently stared at the sky, and he instantly noticed that his left eye had actually seen through those mysterious stone steels. This caused Lin Ling to be astonished. At first, his eyes could see through time, and gradually, he could see the world of a world. Now that he was in the martial god world, he could actually see through the essence of things. The martial god realm was the core of the universe. If one wanted to see through the time and everything here, they would need to be a top-notch martial god who controlled this world. However, he had a feeling that his left eye would be able to see the core of the myriad worlds in the future. That one. Immediately, Lin Ling pointed at one of the stone steels. A number immediately appeared on the stone steel. It was 1. This meant that Lin Ling had the right to be the first to choose his opponent. He could choose weaker opponents. As long as he won 3 matches, he had hope of entering the top 3. Commander Lin Ling's luck is really good. From the beginning until now, there's no need to talk about his luck. Maybe he's the Grand Commander, so he's given special treatment. Seeing this, some people said sarcastically. They felt that Lin Ling had won too easily. Even Commander Huang Qi and the others were a little surprised. However, they thought that Lin Ling was just lucky. Lin Ling, come and fight me. At this moment, a roar was heard. Many people looked over and saw that it was Commander Ling Wulai who had spoken. Oh, scoundrel Ling, you want to fight me? Lin Ling looked at Ling Wulai indifferently. Ling Wulai's forehead was filled with blue veins when he heard Ling Wulai call him a scoundrel. However, Ling Wulai endured it. Those who are eliminated can challenge the top 10. This is the rule. So, I want to fight you. Do you want to fight me? Ling Wulai walked forward step by step. His armor shone with dazzling light. He wanted to trample on Lin Ling and make the Grand Commander lose face. Ling Wulai, the first commander of the boat division, had a fierce battle with the first commander of the scout division. Ling Wulai is not weak. This battle is going to be more exciting. I wonder if Commander Lin Ling or Ling Wulai will win. Let's see. Everyone was looking forward to the battle. However, Lin Ling just smiled and did not speak. Commander Lin Ling wouldn't be afraid to fight, would he? Someone asked suspiciously. It's not strange that Commander Lin Ling is afraid to fight. After all, Lin Ling is not an ordinary commander. He's the first commander of the boat division. In terms of time, Commander Lin Ling has been in the Martial God Battalion for a shorter time. He won't lose face even if he doesn't fight. Someone among the scouts said, trying to save Lin Ling's face. Even if that's the case, it's too shameful for a commander to not dare to fight a commander. That's right. If a commander doesn't dare to fight, how can he be called a commander? The soldiers of the other troop classes naturally added insult to injury. However, Falling Flower Flowing Water and the others were stunned. Lin Ling was afraid to fight? The reason was simple. Lin Ling was afraid of Ling Wulai. After all, Ling Wulai had fought before and displayed his strength. Lin Ling knew Ling Wulai's strength, so he thought he was inferior to Ling Wulai. That means he's inferior to me. Falling Flower Flowing Water was excited. He was the first scout. Are you really afraid to fight? Lin Ling, you're a coward. Ling Wulai laughed. He did not expect Lin Ling to be afraid to fight. Coward. Instantly, his contemptuous voice spread throughout the Martial God Battalion. That's too much. How rude. Lu Qingfeng and the others were furious. If Ling Wulai scolded Lin Ling as a coward in front of all the soldiers, who would believe in Lin Ling in the future? They would probably laugh at him secretly. Lin Ling is right not to fight. Although his reputation is important, his life is more important. Tang Yue shook her head and said. Her words stunned Lu Qingfeng and the others. They could vaguely hear that Tang Yue was worried about Lin Ling's safety. He doesn't dare to fight? Among the commanders, the blue-armored commander Qian Xianchen frowned. This was not what he wanted to see. He wanted to see Lin Ling die in the arena. However, Lin Ling admitted defeat when facing someone who was stronger than him? If so, how could he kill Lin Ling? Qian Xianchen immediately looked at one of the 10 people. That person was holding a long halberd. His face was cold and he was wearing a red cloak and red armor. He looked majestic. The Divine List is a training ground for the commanders and the soldiers. As a commander, you don't dare to accept the challenge from the other commanders. Are you still a soldier? Are you still a man? Moreover, according to the rules of the third round, the last 10 people have to accept the challenge from the one who was eliminated. If you refuse, it means you admit defeat. A coward as the commander of the scouts. What a joke. What a joke. But let me tell you, coward, my first battle is with you. I want you to lose 2 battles in a row. The red-armored man kicked the halberd at his feet and pointed it at Lin Ling from afar, his eyes filled with contempt. Coward. Chapter 2259. He thought too highly of himself. It's Commander Hong Qing. The soldiers were shocked. Hong Qing was the number 1 commander of the halberd troop. She was a cold and ruthless person. She had been ordered by the Martial God Battalion to capture a wanted criminal in the Infinite Water Boundary. However, she had destroyed the entire Infinite Water Boundary and killed billions of people. After that, no one dared to provoke her. It could be said that in terms of ferocity, he was number 1 among all the commanders. She wants to fight Lin Ling. Commander. The commander suddenly frowned. He was extremely wary of Commander Hong Qing. Lin Ling's face darkened. He didn't offend her, but she was being so aggressive. Moreover, he was jealous of Lin Ling. This was nothing, but Lin Ling could clearly sense the murderous intent in his eyes. She wanted to kill him. She wanted to kill him even though there was no enmity between them. Huh, what a coward. However, Commander Hong Qing, Lord Lin Ling is my opponent. You don't have to fight him. He should fight me first. All right. As for Ling Wulai, he said with a smile. They both seemed to think that Lin Ling was their prey. The two of them echoed each other while Lin Ling remained silent. This caused many people to sympathize with Lin Ling. After all, Lin Ling was still the Grand Commander. The old man on the Qilin sighed and said, "Since Commander Lin Ling doesn't dare to fight me, then I'll consider this battle as an admission of defeat. Commander Lin Ling has lost one of the 3 battles." Before he could finish his sentence, an indifferent voice sounded, "Wait." The crowd looked over and saw that it was Lin Ling. Could it be that Lin Ling had finally chosen to fight for his pride? However, it was normal. He had been called a coward. No one would be able to endure it. However, showing off without strength would only make him lose face. Oh, he decided to fight me? Ling Wulai looked at Lin Ling in surprise. Lin Ling didn't even look at him. Instead, he looked at the old man in the sky and said, "My lord, do I have to accept Ling Wulai's challenge?" As soon as he finished speaking, the old man riding the Qilin was stunned. Everyone's mouths were wide open. Those who were eliminated could challenge one of the 10 people. This was a rule that everyone knew. Ling Wulai laughed and wanted to say something. However, Lin Ling's voice sounded again. "Doesn't the one who drew lot number 1 have the right to choose first?" As soon as he finished speaking, all the laughter stopped. The old man riding the Qilin was also stunned. He had forgotten about this matter. Previously, Ling Wulai wanted to challenge Lin Ling. However, he had forgotten that Lin Ling had the right to choose the first battle. If Ling Wulai wanted to challenge Lin Ling, he could only choose the second battle. As a person who had been eliminated, he wasn't qualified to challenge Lin Ling. Ling Wulai was speechless. There will always be some mad dogs when training soldiers on the divine list. Others haven't even spoken yet, but they are already complacent and self-righteous. They even think that they have won everything. Moreover, they overestimate themselves and ridicule others as cowards. Is such a short-sighted person really qualified to be a commander? Lin Ling's voice sounded again. The crowd knew that he was talking about Lin Ling. However, it was true. Lin Ling had the right to choose first. Who was Ling Wulai? Who was he to challenge? He was a mad dog. Are you calling me a mad dog? Ling Wulai's face darkened and he said, "I admit that you have the right to choose first. However, if you don't dare to fight, you are a coward. You can't change that." Lin Ling shook his head. He didn't want to talk nonsense. He would prove it with his actions. He flew out and landed on the stone drum arena in the sky. Commander Lin Ling was going to fight. The crowd was in an uproar. Lin Ling had been silent. They thought that Lin Ling was afraid. However, Lin Ling wasn't afraid at all. He had the right to choose his opponent. Ling Wulai felt as if he had been slapped in the face. His body was trembling with anger. However, he sneered and said, "You have guts. Okay, I will fight with you." He wanted to walk out. However, a sword was pointed at him from the stone drum arena and he said, "Did I ask you to fight? You are too weak. I don't want to fight with you. Don't want to fight with you." Lin Ling's voice was like a war drum that echoed throughout the martial god battalion. Even Commander Huang Qi and the others opened their mouths wide. Lin Ling was too arrogant. Falling flowers, flowing water sword, come up. However, Lin Ling's next sentence was like a thunderclap, causing the soldiers to feel dizzy and dizzy. Lin Ling didn't want to fight with Ling Wulai because Lin Ling wanted to choose his opponent. His opponent was Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword. In fact, everyone knew who was stronger between Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword and Ling Wulai. Suddenly, countless loud slaps fell on Ling Wulai's face. He was so ashamed that he didn't know where to hide his face. Lin Ling had jumped over him and challenged the expert above him. He wasn't even qualified to be Lin Ling's opponent. He was like a clown. Ling Wulai thought that he was great. In the end, Lord Lin Ling didn't even like him. He thinks too highly of himself. After a moment of silence, all the scouts laughed mockingly. As for Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, he was extremely surprised that Lin Ling wanted to challenge him. Instantly, he flew to the stone drum arena in the sky and said lightly, "What a surprise." Looking at Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, Di Baimo and the others were looking forward to it. They had lost to Lin Ling in the past. Today, they wanted to see Lin Ling being humiliated. Both of them are at rank 8 Martial Emperor realm. However, Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword has more than 30% of his boundary origin. Moreover, he has cultivated a rank 1 boundary origin martial skill and can erupt with 5% of his boundary origin. Together with the green boundary sword in his hand, his boundary origin can barely reach 50%. Commander Huang Qi, Lin Ling came out with you. How is his strength? Many of the commanders below the stone drum arena squinted their eyes and asked. They weren't familiar with Lin Ling. As for Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, they were very clear about his strength because of the previous battle. In fact, they didn't think that Lin Ling could win. Commander Huang Qi smiled bitterly and said, when he was cultivating in the martial god barracks, he converted 20% of his boundary origin. I don't know what happened next. However, his cultivation level rose quickly. When we first met, he was only at rank 4 Martial Emperor realm. Hearing this, the commanders gasped. It was indeed rare for someone to rise 4 cultivation levels in such a short period of time. However, it is only 20% of his boundary origin. Even if he has been cultivating hard, he can only convert 30% of his boundary origin. In terms of martial skills and weapons, he is weak. Soon, a commander sighed and said, Lin Ling shouldn't be able to win. In fact, Commander Huang Qi thought so too. Although Lin Ling had defeated young Master Thousand Face, young Master Thousand Face's avatar only had 10% of his boundary origin. It wouldn't be difficult to defeat them one by one. I am the number 1 commander. Lord Lin Ling, your position is only higher than mine. Don't think that you have surpassed me in strength. At that moment, Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword gradually became excited in the stone drum arena. Old and new grudges could be resolved together. Moreover, he could also prove that he was the real Scout King. Chapter 2260. Battle for the first commander. The Falling Flowers and Flowing Water Sword was unsheathed. When the sword was unsheathed, the falling flowers were in full profusion. The merciless flowing water. Like a shooting star, it shot towards Lin Ling. The sword was fast. Many of the scouts and commanders present couldn't see through that sword. Seeing this, Lin Ling smiled and also drew his sword. Clang! Sword tips collided with sword tips. Terrifying world essence energy erupted, capable of engulfing an entire world. The two figures retreated at the same time. One retreated 100 meters, while the other retreated 200 meters. On the other hand, Lin Ling had retreated 200 meters. He seemed to have fallen into a disadvantageous position from the start. Amazing! With just his physical body and talent, in addition to 20% of his realm essence, he actually blocked 30% of my realm essence. The falling flowers flowing water sword waved his sword and said, but I still say the same thing. You should study harder in the field of dimensional transformation and not waste your time on other fields. As soon as he finished speaking, he attacked again. Flower petals fluttered in the air. With this sword, his boundary essence had increased. By borrowing the sword in his hand, he actually reached 40% of his realm essence, terrifying to this degree. Obviously, he wanted to win beautifully, so he attacked like a storm right from the start. Seeing this, many people stopped breathing, and their minds were constantly analyzing. But from the looks of it, Commander Lin Ling shouldn't be able to block that sword. Lost, he's definitely lost. Tang Yue and the chess boy looked at each other. Both of them were a little excited, looking forward to the bet after Lin Ling lost. As for Lin Ling, he stood there like a pine tree. In the previous sword strike, he clearly didn't even use 50% of his strength. The reason was that he wanted to see what the boundary essence of the falling flowers flowing water sword was like. And the result was that the other party was able to release his realm essence, moreover fuse it with his innate talent. Although the fusion was very small, it was still worthy of praise. It seemed that while he was bitterly cultivating, others were also bitterly cultivating and growing. The competition in the martial god realm was very fierce, and if he was a step slower, he would be stepped on by others and ruthlessly humiliated. Unfortunately, even though his opponent's cultivation speed was fast, Lin Ling wasn't slow either. I still have 2 more strikes to defeat you. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling also drew his sword. His voice undoubtedly caused everyone's hearts to tremble. 2 more strikes. Could it be that Lord Lin Ling intends to defeat his opponent in 3 strikes? Clang! The second sword collided. What was frightening was that falling flowers flowing water sword's boundary essence carried the taste of falling flowers flowing water, but Lin Ling's sword also carried the power of space. His mastery of realm essence has already reached the initial stage of fusion. Great Commander Huang Qi and the others immediately cried out in alarm. In terms of controlling the domain of boundary essence, Lin Ling was no weaker than falling flowers flowing water sword. Qi. At this moment, the sword tips were still clashing. It was like a battle between the number 1 commanders, a battle between the number 1 swordsmen. Falling flowers flowing water sword's expression changed. He did not expect that Lin Ling's sword Dao was not weaker than his. Lin Ling's control of boundary essence was also extremely skilled. You have some ability, but world essence represents everything. He erupted with a terrifying sword strike. 40% of his realm essence was gathered at the tip of the sword. He wanted to defeat Lin Ling with a single strike. Lin Ling previously said that he could defeat him in 3 strikes. This was a disgrace to him. He wanted to see where Lin Ling got the qualifications to boast. Clearly, he only had 30% of his realm essence, but the sword in his hand was extremely extraordinary. It increased the power of his realm essence. Ka ka ka. Instantly, the aura on the stage became fierce. It was as if countless invisible realm essence astral winds were sweeping across. This was the pressure of realm essence. But at this moment, Lin Ling's sword also changed. It was as if the power from the space world was surging like a storm, causing his realm essence to increase crazily. It actually reached 40%. The 2 swords collided again. Falling flowers flowing water sword was bent. This meant that in terms of realm essence, Lin Ling was stronger than falling flowers flowing water sword. What, old Huang, his realm essence has been converted to 40%. Or is it the sword in his hand that increases the power of his realm essence? No, definitely not. His sword only increases the power of law, it did not increase his realm essence at all. This means that he has converted 40% of his realm essence. This change caused the senior commanders to suck in a breath of cold air. In a short period of time, Lin Ling's cultivation had crazily increased by 4 realms. This shocked them. But who knew that Lin Ling's realm essence conversion was also so monstrous? You converted 40% of your realm essence? Almost at the same time, Falling Flowers' flowing water sword roared angrily. He believed that he was a martial god genius. He believed that he was stronger than Lin Ling in any field. Therefore, he wanted to ruthlessly defeat Lin Ling. But now, he realized that after he lost to Lin Ling in the past, it was impossible for him to surpass Lin Ling. Because he was strong, Lin Ling was stronger. He even surpassed him by more. After all, he had only converted 30% of his realm essence. To be able to erupt with 40% of his realm essence, he still relied on the sword in his hand. I'm not satisfied. Falling Flowers' flowing water sword roared angrily. The sword in his hand trembled and a powerful force erupted. It pushed back Lin Ling's sword. At the same time, the 3 realms sword appeared behind him. Countless swordsmen were brandishing their swords. Their beliefs, their swordsmanship, they were all integrated into Falling Flowers' flowing water sword. This was the realm essence of Small Sword Mountain. This sword had reached 50% of the realm essence's power. It was terrifying. The 3 realms sword, a mid-grade realm essence martial art. It comes from Small Sword Mountain realm. That's a relatively famous sword cultivation realm in the southern border. Many people shouted excitedly. In fact, they had seen this sword before. But when they saw it again, they were still shocked. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He realized that Falling Flowers' flowing water sword had increased his realm essence. At least 50%. This was a realm essence martial art. However, those realm essence martial arts aroused his interest. They should be martial arts from the myriad worlds. You're not the only one who has realm essence martial arts. Finally, Lin Ling also used realm essence martial arts. Black Sword Record. First level, 10 years of sharpening a sword. When the sword was swung, the realm essence from the sword world seemed to pass through thousands of voids and transmitted into Lin Ling's sword. His sword was even more dazzling and domineering. It was also 50% realm essence, but it was more condensed. After all, Lin Ling relied on his own body, but Falling Flowers' flowing water sword relied on too many external objects. Lin Ling also knows realm essence martial arts. Those commanders were shocked at Falling Flowers' flowing water sword at first, but soon, their eyes moved. I remember that at Martial God Lake, Lord Lin Ling obtained a set of realm essence martial arts. It seems to be the Black Sword Record. It came from the sword world. It's a second-grade realm essence martial art. Heavens, he actually succeeded in cultivating it too. His realm is rising crazily, his realm essence is changing crazily, and even the martial art has been successfully cultivated. Is he a demon king? The crowd's eyes also turned to Lin Ling. At this moment, they finally saw what it meant to be a powerful monster in all major fields. After all, when a martial artist cultivated, they would have to spend a lot of time on any domain. Thus, with the same amount of time, most of them would only strengthen a single domain. There was simply no one who could cultivate in all domains. However, Lin Ling had done so. Furthermore, without mentioning anything else, just the word second-grade boundary origin martial art alone was enough for a martial artist to comprehend for several years. Moreover, Falling Flowers' flowing water sword's martial art came from the Small Sword Mountain world, but Lin Ling's martial art came from the sword world. The two could not be compared at all. Chapter 2261. The Strongest Forklang. Falling Blossom's flowing water's sword broke into pieces. His face turned pale as he saw a dazzling giant sword slashing towards him from his hometown. He lost. He had suffered a crushing defeat in the battle for the #1 commander position. He had no chance to fight back after 3 moves. But at this moment, the sword stopped in front of his neck. At the same time, a calm voice drifted over, "You lost." Hearing this, Falling Blossom's Flowing Water raised his eyes and looked at Lin Ling in shock. Lin Ling didn't kill him. Because in the arena, life and death were up to fate. He provoked Lin Ling. Even if Lin Ling killed him, no one would object. "Why didn't you kill me?" Falling Blossom's Flowing Water gritted his teeth and said. "You and I have no enmity. As for you targeting me, that's because you're unwilling to accept it. I won't kill people who are unwilling to accept it. On the contrary, I'll admire them." Lin Ling smiled faintly. Plop. Falling Blossom's Flowing Water was stunned. Then, his heart roared. He knelt down on one knee, "Sir." He was convinced by this sentence. At this moment, he, the first commander, was finally willing to give up his position. And he also knew why Lin Ling was able to become the scout commander. "Get up." Lin Ling smiled, kept his sword and left. The entire arena was silent for a moment. Finally, there was a sound like the waves of the sea. "Sir is mighty. Sir is mighty. Let's see who dares to not submit to Sir Lin Ling." Amazing. He defeated the first scout in 3 moves. The king of scouts lives up to his name. His cultivation is too strange. He's so strong in all areas. I'm afraid he's the only one who's worthy of the word genius. Many soldiers said with admiration. Previously, Lin Ling didn't show his strength, so they were disdainful and doubted Lin Ling's position. But now, they had no more doubts. "Scoundrel Ling, go fight Sir Lin Ling, weren't you very arrogant before?" A scout suddenly looked at Scoundrel Ling and said. At this moment, Ling Wulai's face was extremely pale and he was even flustered. He wasn't even a match for Falling Blossom's Flowing Water, let alone Lin Ling. Moreover, he had lost Blossom's Flowing Water and had lost 500 moves. Lin Ling had only used 3 moves and won. Compared to Lin Ling, he was obviously a clown. No wonder Lin Ling didn't want to fight with him. A stray dog, you only know how to be arrogant when others are weak. Now that you see someone who is weaker than you, you immediately shut up. Scoundrel, 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 scoundrel. Scoundrel, scoundrel Wulai. For the first time in Wulai's, he felt Wulai's, he doesn't dare to fight. Even if he does, he will at most lose to Lord Lin Ling in 1 move. At this moment, Blossoming Flowing Water Sword said indifferently. He was also directly mocking the other party. 1. Samzazas. How could a loser, who had been defeated in 1 move, mock Sir Lin Ling as a coward? Ling Wulai, you're the coward. Finally, even more mocking voices rang out like the waves of the sea. Ling Wulai could only brace himself to accept the word coward. When Lin Ling returned to the scout side, Tang Yue, Qi Tong, and the others looked at Lin Ling in shock. They had never thought that Lin Ling would win. This guy seemed to be a little stronger than us when we first met him. How could he be so much stronger now? Qi Tong felt frustrated. Dmo and the others in the distance felt the same. They didn't even dare to look at Lin Ling. They felt ashamed. You actually won. You're a monster. Tang Yue frowned and looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. Lin Ling looked calm, as if defeating Blossom's Flowing Water wasn't something to be proud of. He said lightly, "Take out your wager. Are you a pervert? Others would be jumping for joy if they won, but you're so stubborn. Instead, you're eyeing our treasures. You greedy bastard." Tang Yue was exasperated, but she still handed over the jade pendant. Qi Tong also felt that Lin Ling was too calm. He then handed over the black and white chess pieces with a wry smile. "Thank you." Lin Ling accepted the treasures with a smile. He was very poor now, so he wouldn't miss out on any treasures. Next, the third round continued. Of course, the most dazzling battle so far was still Lin Ling's battle. Most of the remaining commanders gave up and didn't dare to compete for the top 3. Those who had some fighting spirit didn't dare to challenge Lin Ling. As time passed, it was finally Commander Che Jun's turn. He only had 3 opponents. One was Commander Hong Qing, another was the number 1 commander of the archers, Fairy Dan Yun, and the last was Lin Ling. All 3 of them were very strong, and he couldn't tell who was stronger. However, Commander Che Jun liked challenging the difficulty the most. Therefore, he chose Commander Hong Qing. Commander Hong Qing is the number 1 among all the commanders. Commander Che Jun actually challenged her. Don't you know? Commander Che Jun likes to challenge the strongest. This also means that in Commander Che Jun's heart, Commander Hong Qing is the most terrifying. As for Lin Ling and Fairy Dan Yun, they're also very strong. However, they shouldn't have reached Commander Hong Qing's level. The crowd began to analyze. Blossom's Flowing Water and the others also looked at Lin Ling. They thought that Lin Ling wouldn't be satisfied, but they realized that Lin Ling was very calm. However, they also agreed with Commander Che Jun's choice. Especially Blossom's Flowing Water. After he laughed, he actually took the initiative to approach Lin Ling. "Lord Lin Ling, don't be angry. Commander Che Jun and Commander Hong Qing are the strongest commanders in the previous generation. It's normal for them to be stronger. Yes, Lord Lin Ling isn't as strong as them for now. However, it won't be long before Lord Lin Ling surpasses them." Dmo also walked over with a smile. In the past, they didn't accept Lin Ling because they felt that the gap between them wasn't big. However, now, they felt that the gap between them was like heaven and earth. Therefore, they directly submitted to him. "Do I look like I'm angry? What's more, there's always someone stronger. If I get angry when I see someone stronger than me, I'm afraid I'll die of anger." Lin Ling stared at them and suddenly scolded them with a smile. "Lord Lin Ling, you have a good attitude." Dmo and the others immediately smiled. They treated Lin Ling as their boss. At this moment, the fierce battle on the arena had already begun. In fact, this battle could be said to be the craziest battle in the 3rd round. Moreover, many people already had the top 3 names in their hearts. They were Commander Hong Qing, Fairy Dan Yun, Commander Che Jun and Lin Ling. One of them would be eliminated. This is 50% realm origin. At this moment, the crowd exclaimed. This was because the 2 lords on the arena had directly erupted with 50% realm origin. Moreover, in terms of power, it was more powerful than Lin Ling's previous strike. So strong. Fortunately, my goal is to be in the top 10. If I were to compete for the top 3, I'm afraid I would be defeated in one move. Blossom's Flowing Water clenched his fist and said unwillingly. The gap was too big. Boom. However, something even more terrifying happened. On the martial stage, 60% of his boundary origin erupted. Commander Che Jun and Commander Hong Qing both had 60% realm origin. Chapter 2262. The tyrannical Commander Hongqing. However, Commander Hong Qing was clearly a level higher. Her halberd was mighty and domineering, and it could attack and defend. When defending, it could reach 50% world origin, when attacking, it could reach 60% world origin. Looking at Commander Che Jun, he could only use 60% world origin when attacking. In terms of defense, he was a bit weaker. Thus, he was finally defeated. Sighs of regret came from the surroundings. However, in their hearts, they did not find it strange. Because they had already determined that Commander Hongqing was the number one. Using 50% world origin, using martial arts to reach 60% world origin, she can attack and defend. Impressive. Commander Huang Qi and the other seniors also praised. They also believed that Commander Hongqing was the number one. And the following battle was undoubtedly much dimmer. Commander Che Jun walked towards Lin Ling. Lin Ling smiled at him and said, "Almost. If you were just a bit faster, he wouldn't be able to block 60% of your world origin." Yes. Commander Che Jun shook his head. That might not be the case. Anyway, he's very strong. I feel that no matter what, we can't defeat him. Yes. Is that so? Yes. Lin Ling did not comment. You all definitely think so when watching from the outside. However, watching from the sidelines is one thing. When the real battle starts, your opinions will be different. Commander Che Jun was still firm in his opinion. Commander Che Jun, are you saying that none of our commanders can defeat him? Falling Flower Flowing Water frowned and said. Commander Che Jun pondered for a moment, then looked at Lin Ling. If it's the next God list training, this guy might be able to. Yes. Hearing this, Falling Flower Flowing Water and the others sucked in a cold breath. However, thinking about it, with Lin Ling's talent, it was indeed possible. Next time? Lin Ling shrugged, but he had a different opinion in his heart. However, he was too lazy to say it out loud. Because even if he said it, no one would believe him. Just like Commander Che Jun, he had his own opinion. He believed that Commander Hongqing would not lose at all. Therefore, he denied Lin Ling's opinion. In fact, he did not know that although Lin Ling was not on the stage, his left eye had analyzed everything. As for the arena, the battles continued. Fairy Pill Cloud came out to fight. She was also one of the strongest four. However, what was surprising was that she didn't choose to challenge the strong, but the weak. She was obviously very cautious. What surprised Lin Ling even more was that the leader of the crossbowmen was Danran's sister. Gradually, it was Commander Hongqing's turn to fight. Currently, he was the only one among the four strongest who had yet to participate in a battle. The bustling and clamorous surroundings of the combat ring went completely silent, and it became completely silent. Everyone stared at the tall man in red armor. The man's expression was cold as his triangular eyes swept across the crowd mercilessly. I admit defeat. The top three will only be born from those four people. We have no hope. Admit defeat. Commander Hongqing is number one among all the commanders. Who can be her match? Those opponents all admitted defeat very straightforwardly, but no one laughed at them, because this was a very normal thing. Commander Hongqing licked his lips. He enjoyed the reverence of the crowd. However, when he looked around, he saw that one person was standing there like a pine tree. His expression was calm as if he was not afraid of him at all. That person was Lin Ling. The crowd followed Commander Hongqing's gaze and their blood boiled. If they remembered correctly, Commander Hongqing had said that he would fight Lord Lin Ling. Was there really going to be such a battle? Commander Lin Ling, let's fight. Finally, Commander Hongqing smiled and flew to the combat ring. He waved at Lin Ling, who was below the combat ring. He wanted to defeat Lin Ling. In fact, he wanted to kill Lin Ling. This was because Commander Qian Xian had specifically instructed him to do so. If he succeeded, he would also become a commander. This was a great reward. Moreover, he was extremely displeased about the fact that Lin Ling had become the Grand Commander. Very well, you must kill him. Commander Qian Xian smiled coldly. Lin Ling was a commander, so it would be difficult for him to kill him if he did not have the opportunity. However, he now had the opportunity. However, Lin Ling must not admit defeat. At the same time, many people around the combat ring exclaimed. Lin Ling's strength was obvious to everyone. However, they also knew that Lin Ling was a new recruit this year, while Commander Hong Qing was a veteran. Therefore, Lin Ling was no match for Commander Hong Qing. Moreover, Lin Ling was a new recruit, but his strength was only inferior to Commander Hong Qing. He should be proud of himself. If he did not fight, no one would laugh at him. Instead, they would think that everything was normal. Commander Hong Qing has been cultivating in the martial gods barracks for a long time. Lin Ling has just arrived. I don't think he will be able to fight. Everyone on First Commander Huang Qi's side spoke out. Commander Hong Qing frowned. Yes, if Lin Ling did not fight, he would not be able to achieve his goal. Therefore, he had to think of a way. Commander Lin Ling, how about a death match? He said indifferently. His words caused 1,000 ripples. Everyone's expression changed drastically. In this way, Lin Ling would not dare to fight. Let me tell you, I must kill you. Even if you don't fight, I will kill you in the future. So, do you want to hide in the martial gods barracks forever? Or do you want to settle this once and for all? Commander Hong Qing said again. Her voice silenced the martial gods barracks. No one had expected Commander Hong Qing to want to kill Lin Ling. Moreover, she had threatened him openly. Commander Hong Qing, what nonsense are you talking about? Commander Huang Qi shouted angrily. He had not expected Commander Hong Qing to be so arrogant. What? Is it against the rules to talk about it? I know that the martial gods barracks can't kill allies, but I can still do it without anyone knowing. In any case, no one will see me kill him. That's enough. However, Commander Hong Qing smiled disdainfully. He was fearless. However, his words were reasonable. He had only talked about it and had not acted on it yet. Therefore, he had not broken the rules. And this was enough to be domineering. Why do you want to kill him? He doesn't seem to have any enmity with you. Commander Huang Qi said with a frown. There is indeed no enmity. I just don't like him. Can I? However, Commander Hong Qing's arrogance was beyond imagination. In short, she did not like him, so she wanted to kill him. Huh, a great commander is afraid of a small soldier like me? Of course, it's fine if you don't dare to fight. Tell everyone that you are a piece of trash and I will spare your life. Commander Hong Qing ignored Huang Qi and stared at Lin Ling with disdain. She was being overbearing. If Lin Ling admitted defeat, he would have to call himself a piece of trash. Moreover, Commander Hong Qing would want to kill Lin Ling in the future. No one would be able to tolerate that because they had no enmity with each other. You're going too far. Many people shouted angrily. Although they did not have a close relationship with Lin Ling, they could not stand Commander Hong Qing's arrogance. In reality, they did not know that although Commander Hong Qing looked arrogant and overbearing, she was actually very scheming. She was using provocation to force Lin Ling to fight. Chapter 2263. Formed from a stone embryo, Lin Ling's expression was calm, but it gradually turned cold. Those who knew Lin Ling knew that his heart was filled with murderous intent. Especially those who had died in Lin Ling's hands. They knew this murderous expression best. However, Lin Ling was puzzled as to why Commander Hong Qing was targeting him. At this moment, Grand Commander Huang Qi looked over with a hint of worry in his eyes. Moreover, there was a warning in his voice. Brother Lin Ling, don't fight. Commander Hong Qing was born from a stone embryo. She received orders from Commander Qian Xian to provoke you to fight. Commander Qian Xian? Lin Ling looked over at Commander Huang Qi and saw a familiar face. It was the blue-armored man who wanted to assassinate him. Most importantly, his surname was Qian. He had the same surname as young Master Qian Xian. No wonder he wanted to kill him. So that was the reason. Beside Lin Ling, Commander Che Jun saw that Lin Ling was silent. He knew that Lin Ling must be feeling wronged, so he comforted him. Commander Hongqing was born from a stone embryo. Legend has it that she was born in the void of the universe. She was going to be born as a world, but an expert enlightened her and allowed her to transform into a human. What? She wants to become a world? Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword and the others gasped. This talent was too terrifying. Every day, a world would be born and a world would fall. The world that was born had various forms at the beginning. There were flame forms, stone forms, and so on. After being refined by the universe, they would germinate and transform into a world. When they were seeds, if others enlightened them, they could transform into humans. It could be said that Commander Hongqing's talent had surpassed all the other commanders. No wonder she could become the first among all the commanders. Although Lord Lin Ling's talent is powerful, compared to Commander Hongqing, he is still a little weaker. Fortunately, he is in the realm of converting world essence. It is difficult to use his talent. In the future, it will be terrifying. Lord Lin Ling will definitely not fight. That was because Lin Ling was also silent. Even great Commander Huang Qi believed that Lin Ling would retreat in the face of difficulties. However, Lin Ling remained silent. It wasn't that he didn't dare to fight, but rather that he was pondering over his opponent's intentions. But now, he knew. Therefore, Lin Ling shot out and went straight to the arena. Lord Lin Ling is going to fight? This guy. Everyone was shocked, especially Falling Flowers and Flowing Water Sword. They thought that Lin Ling had already retreated, but who would have thought that Lin Ling would fight in the next moment? This boldness could be said to be swift and decisive. Alas! However, Commander Huang Qi sighed softly. Lin Ling had somewhat lost his mind. After Lin Ling landed on the stage, he slowly drew his sword with a cold expression. At this point, there was no need for him to say anything because they'd definitely come to kill him. As for hatred? No, there was no enmity between him and Commander Hongqing. There was only interest between them. She would only benefit if she killed him. Rumble. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's boundary essence was also activated. 40% of his boundary essence was like a storm. The boundary essence was extremely condensed and his foundation was solid. Lin Ling's cultivation was also displayed. It was rank 8 Martial Emperor. What a solid foundation. Every time he advances a realm, his laws will definitely increase by a lot. He must have put in a lot of effort to cultivate in the Martial Emperor realm. Commander Che Jun said with a frown. However, what he said was true. Lin Ling had gone through the third revolution in the Martial Emperor realm and had killed 3 corpses. Naturally, his foundation was stronger than many people. However, Commander Che Jun immediately looked at Commander Hongqing. Commander Hongqing's body was covered in red light as if she was burning. Her boundary essence was also extremely terrifying. It was 50% of her boundary essence. Her cultivation was at the peak of the Martial Emperor realm. With a difference of 2 realms and 10% of her boundary essence, Commander Hongqing was obviously more powerful. Commander Che Jun still insisted that Commander Hongqing was undefeatable. Therefore, he was puzzled. If Lin Ling knew that his opponent was so strong, why did he still want to fight? Perhaps, he will create another miracle. When he defeated me previously, everyone thought that Lord Lin Ling would definitely lose. But what happened in the end? At this moment, Falling Flowers Flowing Water frowned and said. Lin Ling seemed to still have hope. You are you and Commander Hongqing is Commander Hongqing. There is no comparison. Commander Che Jun shook his head. Miracles were not so easy to create, especially when it came to someone with monstrous talent. It was even more difficult. Rumble. At this moment, the stage was trembling under the aura of the two experts. It was as if thunder was rumbling. Some of the weaker soldiers' dantians were also trembling. This caused them to quickly retreat a lot. Only then did the feeling of being suppressed. Based on the trembling of the aura, they knew that if it was placed in the myriad worlds, it would be enough to cause the myriad worlds to collapse. This was the strength of an expert from the martial god realm. I didn't expect that you would really come to fight me. Your backbone surprised me and I admire it. Commander Hong Qing's voice floated out from the formless air waves. He was like an ancient stone and also like a flame. His talent was indeed terrifying, surpassing Lin Ling by a few hundred times. This was also the source of his confidence. You have been in the martial god realm for less than 3 years, but you already have 40% of your boundary essence. To be honest, if this continues, you have a high chance of surpassing me. Commander Hong Qing did not underestimate Lin Ling. She knew that the latter's strength was not bad to be able to become a commander. However, you only have 40% of your boundary essence. With the boundary essence martial arts, you can reach 50%. This strength is only comparable to Commander Che Jun. You are still too weak. Buzz. She kicked the long spear beside her feet and no longer spoke nonsense. She pointed the spear at Lin Ling. Hero of the world. That spear was like the spear of a world. It was as if millions of people were brandishing their spears and shooting at Lin Ling. This was a boundary essence martial art, and it was a first-grade advanced martial art. Great! Seeing this, Commander Qian Xian was delighted. He could finally see Lin Ling die. He could also report back to the Grand Court Commandery. Under countless gazes, millions of long spears appeared in the arena. Everywhere they went, the murderous aura shrouded Lin Ling's body. This spear has 60% of the boundary essence's strength. Commander Che Jun's face became even more solemn. Commander Hong Qing had used her strongest killing move right from the start. He had been defeated by that move previously. Can't it be broken? Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword hurriedly asked. He felt a huge pressure in his heart. Although they were both commanders, the difference in strength was too great. Commander Che Jun shook his head. It is very difficult because that spear has 60% of the boundary essence's strength. There are too many spears and they are too fierce. Indeed, even Lin Ling was solemn at this moment. His opponent's spear was terrifying. This meant that Commander Hong Qing's boundary essence martial art was extremely powerful. And this was the boundary essence that had not been completely integrated with her talent. Otherwise, Commander Hong Qing would be even stronger. Of course, Lin Ling was only slightly solemn. With Li Xiaoyao's experience and the power of his left eye, he quickly saw through that spear. Commander Hong Qing was formed by the mysterious stone embryo. Her talent was extraordinary. However, Lin Ling was the #1 genius in the martial god world in the past. Chapter 2264. I only need one strike to kill you. 10 years of polishing a single strike. Lin Ling made his move. His sword was steady, imposing, and as heavy as a blade. He slashed viciously at the thousands of spears. You overestimate yourself. Commander Hong Qing smiled disdainfully. Lin Ling wanted to resist his spears with only 50% of his Jia Yuan. That might not be the case. Lin Ling spoke softly. Something terrifying happened. Lin Ling's sword didn't slash at all the spears. He allowed his body to block some of the spears that shot at him. However, those spears didn't cause any fatal injuries to Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling's god-devil body was clearly effective. As for the other spears, Lin Ling used his full strength to block them because those spears couldn't be underestimated. This meant that not all of the spears in the army had to be feared. Many of the spears were fake. How is this possible? Commander Hong Qing's expression changed drastically when he noticed that all the spears had been blocked by Lin Ling. Because this was the first time his Jia Yuan martial art had been blocked by someone. In the past, he had relied on this Jia Yuan martial art to sweep through all the heroes and made a small name for himself in Qingzhou. He was even called a rising star who could catch up to the 9 heavens of Qingzhou. But now, he had kicked an iron plate. Luck, it must be luck. Commander Hong Qing roared in his heart. He had cultivated the world spear for a very long time, but it had been broken by a new soldier. How could he believe it? How is this possible? As for below the stage, Commander Che Jun's eyes changed. He thought that Commander Hong Qing was invincible, but Lin Ling didn't agree with his view. At that time, he thought that Lin Ling was a bystander, so it was naturally simple. But now, Lin Ling told him that the spear that defeated him had been broken by Lin Ling. What kind of terrifying eyesight was this? You are invincible just like this. On the stage, Commander Hong Qing roared and retracted all her spears. Her boundary essence began to condense. Since the dazzling spear couldn't kill Lin Ling, then he would use his boundary essence to crush him. His entire body glowed with a bright red light. Like a stubborn rock, it gradually formed a kind of powerful world essence energy, allowing his defense to reach 50% of world essence energy. He continued to brew his most terrifying spear, as if he wasn't worried about Lin Ling's attack at all. Lin Ling, quick! Seeing this, Grand Commander Huang Qi shouted anxiously. The crowd was also constantly shouting. They could sense that Commander Hong Qing was about to end this battle. He was about to erupt with his strongest spear strike. But this was also normal. When one reached Commander Redshine's level, sometimes killing enemies as quickly as possible was the correct path. It was also because the gap between him and Lin Ling was too great. He didn't need to fight slowly. However, in front of everyone's eyes, Lin Ling held his sword and fought, indifferent. Alas! Commander Huang Qi sighed. It was as if he could already see Lin Ling falling. Right now, he couldn't help at all. So he was extremely regretful. Because he had just seen a good seedling, but now he was killed. It's useless. Instead of attacking, Lin Ling might as well leave his mind to defend against that most terrifying spear strike. Only Commander Che Jun knew that even if Lin Ling attacked, it wouldn't have any effect. This was because Commander Che Jun's defense was also extremely terrifying. It had reached 50% of world essence energy. And this was also called invincible. Buzz buzz buzz. Right at this moment, Commander Hong Qing attacked with his spear. The scene of a stone embryo comprehending the universe appeared behind him. It was as if the stone embryo floating in the universe gradually sprouted and turned into a world. When that world exploded, a red spear pierced through the void and came flying over. 60% of world essence energy condensed into that spear. Fast, incomparably fast. The previous spear was too scattered, so it didn't kill Lin Ling. But now, the spear was condensed into a single point. It should be enough. What a stunning spear strike. At this moment, no one thought that Lin Ling could still win. But no one saw that Lin Ling had also moved. His eyes were filled with killing intent. If he moved a moment earlier or a moment later, it would be fatal to him. But now was the best time. Because Commander Hongqing's move was invincible. Both her defense and attack were extremely terrifying. But the moment she switched from defense to attack, Commander Hongqing's weakness appeared. And for a swordsman, no one would let that momentary weakness remain. Dragon painting finishing touch. Lin Ling's sword changed. Sharp, sharp. It was like a sword that came from the essence of the sword world. It was like a simple dragon painting. The moment the brush touched the eye, the dragon woke up. And this sword was extremely fast. It had the speed of crossing a world. What kind of concept was this? This meant that when this sword stabbed out, in Lin Ling's world, it could instantly reach the edge of the world. However, no one saw this dazzling sword. Everyone was shocked by Commander Hongqing's spear. In fact, Commander Huang Qi subconsciously thought of Lin Ling's scream after he was killed. But the truth was indeed so. On the stage, after a violent explosion, a painful scream exploded out like thunder. Subconsciously, everyone thought that it was Lin Ling's scream. And the blade light and sword shadows disappeared in the blink of an eye. When the terrifying power of the world essence dispersed, two figures stood quietly on the stage like stone statues. Time seemed to have frozen. Sigh, what a pity. Many people gradually shook their heads. They thought that Lin Ling might already be dead. I only need one sword to kill you. But at this moment, a cold voice drifted out like the wind. I only need one sword to kill you. Sword? No, the only person who used a sword on the stage seemed to be Lin Ling. At this moment, countless people widened their eyes and stared fixedly at the arena. The expressions on their faces froze. Puff! Almost at the same time, on the stage, the motionless Commander Hongqing's head flew off, blood gushing out like a fountain. Especially the sword/mark on her neck. It was as smooth as a mirror. Clearly, her head had been cleanly chopped off. Commander Hongqing is dead? How is that possible? At this moment, all the soldiers stood up straight. Commander Huang Qi and the others also stood up and looked at the stage in disbelief. When did Lin Ling attack? They didn't even notice. This scene was too impactful for them. Because Commander Hongqing was the strongest of all the commanders. Moreover, her talent was extraordinary. She was determined to be the most promising person to catch up to the 9 heavens of Qingzhou in the next 100 years. But she had fallen here. And what was ironic was that she had declared war on Lin Ling at the beginning. How arrogant and domineering was she, forcing Lin Ling to fight. But she never imagined that Lin Ling would be able to turn the tables and kill a veteran as a new recruit. Lin Ling only needed one sword to kill her. Perhaps even after her death, Commander Hongqing didn't understand that Lin Ling actually had the strength to kill her. Pa! At the same time, Lin Ling put away Commander Hongqing's spear and left the stage with his sword in hand. His figure grew infinitely taller at this moment. I only need one sword to kill you. It was indeed one sword. What was that sword? Why couldn't I see it at all? Commander Hongqing's boundary essence was 60%. Even her defense was 50%. That sword could kill her. This means that the sword's power has reached 60%. Chapter 2265. Dragon Cleansing Pool. So this was Commander Lin Ling's trump card. Commander Che Jun smiled bitterly. No wonder Lin Ling didn't care about his opinion. So that's why. He suddenly felt a little ashamed. He actually thought that he was infallible in front of Lord Lin Ling and affirmed his views? Amazing. He has been cultivating in the martial god barracks for such a short period of time. Not only did his cultivation level increase, but he also succeeded in converting his boundary essence. He even comprehended the boundary essence martial arts. This little guy is really monstrous. He hasn't been cultivating for 1,000 years, right? TSK, not bad at all. It's a pity that a talented genius like Hongqing has died. However, the heavens have rewarded us with an even more powerful genius. In the distance, 3 figures stood under the sky like gods of war and said indifferently. Huangfu old man, you have a good eye. One of the old men, who was holding a giant blue sword, said with a smile. He is indeed a genius who cultivates in all aspects. The old man called Huangfu Idao was extremely excited at that moment. When he recalled everything that had happened in the arena, he finally concluded with one sentence, "What a freak." Time was extremely important for a martial artist's cultivation. It would take a lot of time to strengthen one's strength in a major area. Therefore, most of the geniuses only cultivated in one area. It was extremely rare for someone like Lin Ling, who could develop in all aspects and cultivate well in all aspects. Instantly, the three old men stared at Lin Ling with burning eyes. This was because they sensed that the martial god barracks might give birth to an existence like the 9 heavens of Qingzhou. After Lin Ling left the arena, the entire place remained silent. At this moment, Lin Ling's title as commander was well deserved. Hong Qing is really a piece of trash. Qian Xianshan was furious when he heard the cheers around him. The result was beyond his imagination. Of course, he also didn't expect Lin Ling to win. It could only be said that Lin Ling was too monstrous. But this was already the case. What if Lin Ling successfully converted all of his boundary essence? He was sure that Lin Ling would be even harder to kill in the future. His background is very ordinary, and he doesn't have any monstrous talent. Why is he so abnormal? Could it be that his realm origin martial arts were taught by someone else? That must be it. Qian Xianshan thought. This was because he knew that dimensional martial arts were extremely difficult to comprehend. Even those with monstrous talent would need several years to comprehend it. As for ordinary martial artists, they would need dozens of years. There were even some bottlenecks that couldn't be broken through in their lifetime. Therefore, he believed that it was Grand Commander Huang Qi who guided Lin Ling. The third round continued, but no one dared to challenge Lin Ling. Lin Ling naturally became number 1. The second and third were Fairy Dan Yun and Commander Che Jun. This result was within everyone's expectations. Only Fairy Pill Cloud was surprised. She guessed that she was ranked 4th. She couldn't help but look towards Lin Ling. Back then, when her sister Dan Ran became a scout, she was very unhappy and had her sister join her crossbow battalion. She thought that following a newbie like Lin Ling would have no future. But now, she was a bit jealous of her sister. Congratulations to Grand Commander Lin Ling for becoming number 1. At this time, the old man riding the Kirin smiled as he looked at Lin Ling. Then, he tossed a ring towards Lin Ling. Within the ring were all the rewards. Lin Ling couldn't help but be overjoyed. After obtaining these resources, his realm origin energy had risen once more. Once his realm origin energy was converted to 100%, he would be able to search for the space and time divine steel. Now that he had found the space and time divine steel, because he hadn't converted his realm origin energy, it wouldn't be of much help. Don't use the martial god cannon carelessly. After all, a single shot can destroy a world. The old man riding the Kirin suddenly said, causing many commanders to reveal looks of envy. Lin Ling wasn't a world king powerhouse, but he had methods that even world kings feared. Thank you, sir. Lin Ling quickly bowed. But at this time, Grand Commander Huang Qi's voice floated over. Old brother Lin Ling, the number 1 person can make a request of the martial god battalion. You can mention the Dragon Cleansing Pool. Dragon Cleansing Pool? Lin Ling's eyes brightened. Could it be that kind of place? In the past, he had also heard of the Dragon Cleansing Pool. This was an extremely rare and precious land. This was because it was the place where carps leapt through the Dragon Gate. According to legends, as long as a carp leapt through the Dragon Gate, it would transform into a true dragon. It would wash away its scales and mortal body, becoming a true dragon. As for the scales and the land of mortal embryos that were left behind, they accumulated a dense amount of spiritual energy in the universe. This sort of energy was extremely precious. "Sir, I want to go to the dragon cleansing pool," Lin Ling hurriedly said. The old man riding the Kirin was stunned for a moment before he wryly smiled. The martial god battalion had many precious cultivation lands, and the dragon cleansing pool was one of them. However, not many people knew of this secret. This was because the dragon energy of the dragon cleansing pool could only be used once. Unless the other party specifically mentioned it, they wouldn't reward them with this cultivation land. He hesitated for a moment, wanting to find a way to refuse. At this time, a voice sounded in his ears, causing the old man's expression to turn solemn. He immediately said to Lin Ling, "Wait a moment, I'll bring you there." The reason for his solemn expression was that the general had personally spoken up for Lin Ling. "What's the dragon cleansing pool? I've never heard of it before. Looks like it's not a good place. Why doesn't Lin Ling want the treasure? Why does he want this place that we've never heard of?" The crowd looked at each other. They didn't know what the dragon cleansing pool was. After that, the old man smiled at Lin Ling and invited Lin Ling to sit on the Kirin. Then, they flew off into the distance. The crowd looked at Lin Ling's back enviously. Someone like Lin Ling, a new recruit, had become a senior commander and was treated with respect by the veterans. This was very rare. As for Ling Wulai, his expression was ugly. He swore in his heart that he would surpass Lin Ling. In fact, Commander Che Jun and Fairy Dan Yun were the same. They only gave up on falling flowers flowing water. They felt that they couldn't surpass Lin Ling, the freak. Lin Ling, the dragon cleansing pool, was found by the martial god battalion 10,000 years ago. It has nurtured many experts. The dragon chi is getting dimmer and dimmer. The dragon chi will disappear at least 10 more times. You came up with this place at the right time, the old man said with a smile as they traveled. "Sir, may I know what kind of dragon the dragon cleansing pool is?" Lin Ling asked curiously. Hearing this, the old man was shocked. He felt that Lin Ling, a recruit, seemed to know a lot. "It's the land of green carps," the old man said word by word. "Green carp, that's the Azure Dragon, the land of the Azure Dragon." Lin Ling was also surprised. The Kirin under him was very fast. It passed through the path of the martial god battalion and arrived at Huanyu. In front of them was a vast void. There were specks of stars in the distance. They seemed very close, but also very far away. Those are the 10,000 realms. Use your realm origin to check. If the stars are dim, it's a world that is about to be born. If the stars are bright, it's a world that has stabilized. The old man knew that it was Lin Ling's first time here. In fact, it wasn't Lin Ling's first time here. Li Xiaoyao had been here before. Chapter 2266. 50% Boundary Element. Roar. Right at this moment, a dragon's roar resounded from ahead. A huge dragon's image flew over. Actually, the dragon wasn't huge, and it was only as thick as an arm. However, its draconic energy was extremely powerful, so it formed a dragon's image. There are actually dragons in the myriad realms, but only those who have been to Huanyu are true dragons. The old man smiled and said, "That dragon was born in the dragon cleansing pool. It's a new dragon. Right now, it needs to choose a place to cultivate and slowly grow. Moreover, this type of dragon is also called a dragon ancestor. For example, the dragons in the myriad of worlds are all descendants of these dragon ancestors. I didn't expect to see the birth of a dragon in the dragon cleansing pool. After all, it hasn't been seen for thousands of years. There are more than one dragon cleansing pool in the vast universe. However, most of them are hidden. As long as they are discovered by warriors, the number of dragon cleansing pools will gradually decrease. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. He had to admit that he was quite lucky to see the birth of a dragon as soon as he arrived. Roar! The azure dragon that flew by in the distance looked deeply at Lin Ling before swimming off into the distance. That glance made Lin Ling feel immense pressure. That dragon was clearly stronger than Lin Ling. And when this dragon reached any realm in the myriad worlds, it would also transform into the dragon ancestor, causing that realm to also have the bloodline of the dragon. Gradually, a celestial river appeared in front of him. Above the celestial river, there was a rainbow hanging there. He could vaguely see fish jumping in the celestial river, trying to cross the rainbow and transform into dragons. However, there weren't as many carps as there used to be. As the heavenly river flowed forward, a huge lake gradually appeared. Presumably, that was the dragon cleansing pond. We're here. Go, cherish the last bit of dragon energy. The old man patted Lin Ling's shoulder and left. Lin Ling nodded and walked towards the huge lake. His left eye silently appeared and stared at the dragon cleansing pool. In fact, Li Xiaoyao had never been to the dragon cleansing pond in the past. After that, Lin Ling jumped into the pool. Immediately, he saw that the clouds floating around him were like dancing dragons. He even saw carps that didn't fear death. They all wanted to cross the dragon gate, but in the end, they fell and shattered into pieces. This made Lin Ling sigh inwardly. Wanting to soar into the sky in one go was indeed very difficult. However, it wasn't just carps. Weren't martial artists the same? The path of martial arts was like the dragon gate. It was full of danger, but how many people succeeded? How many people had died? Even so, there were still many people who walked on this path fearlessly. Perhaps, this was life. Right now, I should focus on increasing my realm essence. Lin Ling planned to use the dragon chi to increase his boundary essence. After all, if he couldn't convert his boundary essence, then it would be useless no matter how high his cultivation level was. Take the Sun God King and the others for example. Even if they were at the peak of the martial emperor realm, they could only roam freely in their own realm. They were not qualified to come to the martial god realm. Rumble. Suddenly, the surging dragon chi rushed towards Lin Ling, causing Lin Ling's boundary essence to slowly increase. Using the dragon chi to increase one's cultivation level was obviously more effective. However, using it to increase one's boundary essence was much less effective. However, Lin Ling's left eye quietly appeared and looked around. It was as if he saw the birth of the dragon chi. Then, he moved his body and looked for places with dense dragon chi. Gradually, his boundary essence increased even faster. I didn't expect that the demon eyes of 10,000 things could not only increase one's perception, but also see the truth of all things. Lin Ling was secretly happy. While cultivating, he took out the tyrannical song sword and began to forge it. Right now, he had collected many precious materials and could upgrade the tyrannical song sword's level. The treasures in the chess boy's hands were especially important. In the past, the tyrannical song sword only increased the power of laws and was a rank 6 immortal weapon. Right now, he wanted to upgrade it to rank 9 and increase the power of his boundary essence. With Li Xiaoyao's memories, this forging process was even more natural. Because there were enough materials and with the help of the dragon chi, it was naturally much easier. After an unknown period of time, when the sword in Lin Ling's hand appeared, a dragon's roar sounded. The tyrannical song sword was like an azure dragon. The sword body turned green as if there was a dragon swimming around the sword body. Rank 9 immortal weapon. Increasing the power of his boundary essence by 10%. What a pity. Although I have obtained many materials this time, they are not the best. However, I can use them for the time being. Lin Ling shook his head in dissatisfaction. Of course, if falling flowers flowing water and the others were here, they would definitely gnash their teeth in anger. He was actually not satisfied with increasing his boundary essence by 10%. One had to know that increasing one's boundary essence by 5% was already a hot commodity. As for increasing one's boundary essence by 10%, one could only snatch it from the major trading companies. After the tyrannical song sword was forged, Lin Ling crazily transferred the boundary essence. Until a loud explosion sounded, Lin Ling's boundary essence had completely changed by 50%. Rank 8 Martial Emperor Realm, 50% boundary essence. Furthermore, with the help of martial arts and the tyrannical song sword, Lin Ling could increase his boundary essence by 30%. In total, it was 80% boundary essence. This was undoubtedly extremely terrifying. Rumble. After Lin Ling's boundary essence was successfully converted, the dragon cleansing pool rumbled. The heavenly river in the distance started to flow backwards and the carps that had leaped through the dragon gate also left. As for the old man riding the Qilin, he ran over in shock. After taking a look, he immediately smiled bitterly. The dragon cleansing pool could be used 9 more times. However, after you used it, it completely collapsed. Pervert. When he recalled Lin Ling's performance in the arena, the old man finally choked out a sentence. Lin Ling also jumped up from the dragon cleansing pool and shook his head helplessly. The dragon cleansing pool was completely destroyed. "Sir, how long have I been cultivating this time?" After that, Lin Ling asked. "A year." The old man was still heartbroken and he was speechless as he replied. "So long?" Lin Ling was a little surprised. After exchanging a few more words, he rode on the old man's Qilin and headed towards the martial god barracks. "How much boundary essence did you convert this time? Is it half?" On the way, the old man asked curiously. After all, Lin Ling had directly destroyed the dragon cleansing pool. The results of his cultivation should be quite good, 10%. Lin Ling replied with a smile. "Qi." The old man's expression changed drastically. He was depressed and cursed again, "Pervert." There was a total of 100% boundary essence conversion. Many people would need hundreds of years to complete it. However, Lin Ling had converted another 10% in a year. If this wasn't perverted, then what was? At this rate, it wouldn't be long before he converted 100% boundary essence. In fact, he didn't know that Lin Ling had converted 20% boundary essence. 10% was born in the tyrannical song sword. This was also the reason why the dragon cleansing pool collapsed. When the two of them headed towards the martial god barracks, the martial god barracks was extremely lively. This was because the new year had arrived and the martial god barracks had once again recruited many geniuses. Moreover, the aptitude of this year's geniuses was even better. Some of the new recruits had actually reached 30% boundary essence. In Lin Ling's batch, at most, it was 20%. When the new recruits entered the barracks, Flowing Water Sword and the others smiled and looked at the new recruits. At this moment, they were somewhat proud. This was because they were no longer new recruits. Chapter 2267. New recruits enter the camp. How beautiful! Suddenly, many people exclaimed with surprise at the entrance of the martial god camp. Because there was an extremely beautiful young woman amongst the new recruits. Moreover, she was very strong, and she'd converted 20% of her dimensional essence. Such a beautiful and strong genius young woman had undoubtedly moved the hearts of many new recruits. Of course, it was the same even for the veterans. However, right at this moment, a large number of figures arrived from afar. There were both men and women, and all of them possessed extraordinary dispositions. However, to their surprise, 2 of the women amongst them were even better. No matter if it was their appearance or dispositions, they were both superb. Moreover, some people noticed that their strengths weren't weak at all. Are those new recruits? One is lively like a celestial maiden, and the other is cold like an icy beauty. TSK, the martial god camp is lucky. Hee, if I'm able to obtain the hearts of those two beauties, then cultivating in the martial god camp wouldn't be so boring. You? Dream on. Didn't you see? Those two beauties converted 30% of their dimensional essence. They're that formidable? Some veterans were chatting amongst themselves, and they instantly gasped and they found out about the strength of those two women. These new recruits are so terrifying. In this way, without a certain level of strength, no one would have the qualifications to approach those two beauties. After those two beauties descended to the ground, they instantly gazed curiously at the martial god camp. One of them wore a violet dress, and she stared at the martial god camp in a rather cute manner. Is Big Brother Ling here? Grandfather said that he's in the martial god camp. The other woman in a white dress smiled, and her smile was devastatingly beautiful. Both of their figures were extremely good as well. If it wasn't for their strength, then those veterans would have found an excuse to approach them a long time ago. Those veterans are drooling. Unfortunately, those two beauties are new recruits this year. In any case, our chances are slightly higher. The geniuses from all over laughed in their hearts. They walked forward slowly and walked side by side with those two beauties. Someone said, "Junior sisters, may I know which camp you intend to join? If you don't have a better choice, then you can join the cavalry camp. I have a good relationship with that commander, and he can take care of both of you in the future." The person who spoke had a graceful bearing. Moreover, he flicked his hair and felt that he was very dashing. The crowd cursed in their hearts when they saw this. That fellow is really quick. Scram. However, just as the elegant young man was about to continue speaking, the white-clothed lady coldly interjected. A single sentence shut the door in that youth's face. The purple-clothed beauty beside him wasn't as cold as she was, and she started giggling. The others laughed as well. After all, if those two beauties were so easy to get close to, then the word beauty would be worthless. Sure enough, the young man didn't mind and just smiled awkwardly. Of course, he didn't seem to have any intention of giving up. Lu Qingfeng, why don't you try? In the crowd, Pan Luyun stared at Lu Qingfeng and said with a smile. Me? It's better not to think about it. That kind of beauty can only be matched with a true martial god genius, such as Lord Lin Ling. If other people were to pursue them, it would be like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. Lu Qingfeng shook his head. He knew his own limits. That's not necessarily true. Not every woman is judged by her strength. Sometimes, inner qualities are more important. However, at this moment, a voice came from behind them. It was Commander Ling Wulai. He walked out with his soldiers and walked towards the two beauties in a dignified manner. The two recruits, have you decided on which barracks to use? When Ling Wulai arrived in front of the two beauties, he asked coldly in a dignified manner. The rest of the people laughed secretly. It seemed that Commander Ling Wulai had taken a fancy to the two beauties. However, would he succeed? This guy is really despicable. If the two beauties join his barracks, he will be able to enjoy the benefits of being in a favorable position. Luo Hua, Lu Shui, and the others' faces instantly darkened. Don't worry. The two beauties are very talented. They must have powerful backgrounds. How could they join Rascal Ling's barracks? The chess boy said disdainfully. Not at the moment. However, to everyone's surprise, the two beauties became polite and shook their heads. They didn't say, "Get lost." Everyone was surprised. The veterans were all jealous, and so were the new recruits. Even Ling Wulai was secretly delighted. In fact, he knew that ordinary methods wouldn't work if he wanted to get close to the two beauties. The only way was to act cool. After all, he knew women's psychology very well. If he didn't pay attention to them, they would be curious about him. Instantly, Ling Wulai looked at the rest of the people with a smug look in his eyes. Since you don't have any, you can join our barracks. It's the easiest barracks. You don't have to go to the front line. You just need to know how to operate the martial god's boat. Ling Wulai said calmly, of course, I don't mind. If you choose other barracks, I can recommend you. However, the martial god's barracks is a barracks, not your home. Therefore, you can't violate the military rules. One had to admit that Ling Wulai was quite good at acting cool. He made people think that he was a selfless commander. Thank you for your reminder, Your Excellency. The two beauties nodded their heads and didn't look as cold as before. Undoubtedly, this was a good start. Ling Wulai laughed in his heart. He glanced at the rest of the people and knew that they were laughing at them for being so useless. Luo Hua, Lu Shui, and the others were so angry that they gritted their teeth. The recruits were also so angry that their faces turned red. Actually, we have one of our own in the martial god's barracks. However, we don't know which barracks he belongs to. At this time, the lady in the purple dress frowned and said, "That's easy. You can join my barracks. I'll help you find him. After all, there's nothing that I can't do in the martial god's barracks." Ling Wulai continued. He already had a good start. Now, he was halfway to success. The barracks of the martial god's barracks? The two beauties looked at each other. They seemed to be tempted. However, when they were about to speak and Ling Wulai thought that he had succeeded, a lazy voice was heard. "Come to my barracks and be a scout. It's not bad. Moreover, although there are women in my barracks, with the two of you, the training days won't be boring. Of course, it won't be boring for me." As soon as the voice finished speaking, the surrounding people opened their mouths wide. Compared to Ling Wulai's pretentious attitude, the person who had just arrived was straightforward. He was obviously saying that he wanted to court the two beauties. This method was undoubtedly a failure. Not to mention Ling Wulai, even the recruits were secretly laughing at him. When they looked around, they saw a handsome young man with a huge ancient sword on his back. He was walking towards them with a smile. Lin Ling, the great commander. The barracks suddenly became silent. Luo Hua, Lu Shui, and the others smiled. As for Lin Ling, his face darkened. He snorted and said, "Lin Ling, the martial god's barracks is a place of martial arts. You talk about romance every time you open your mouth. Why are you talking about martial arts? What's the relationship between cultivation and romance? Anyway, I can't just focus on cultivation. Am I right, beauties?" Chapter 2268. A Winner in Life. Hee, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked as well. Let's see if they will join your barracks. Ling Wulai sneered. He was waiting for Lin Ling to be humiliated. After all, he also saw that someone wanted to get close to the two beauties, but his purpose was too obvious, so he was scolded. Lin Ling's purpose was even more obvious. He was afraid that he would be greeted with 3 scram. "Have you two beauties made up your mind? If you join my territory, I can lead you to the martial god realm." Lin Ling didn't seem to know what Ling Wulai was thinking. He was still smiling at the two beauties. The purpose of his words was even more obvious. As a result, no one thought highly of him, unless the two beauties were instantly attracted by Lin Ling's temperament. Of course, this kind of hope was very slim. Good. However, just as the crowd was waiting to watch a good show, the two devastatingly beautiful women immediately nodded their heads and agreed extremely quickly. "My lord, my name is Yu. From now on, I will be your soldier." "My lord, my name is Anuer." The two beauties even saluted Lin Ling. Ling Wulai felt as if he had swallowed a fly. The rookies and veterans around them were so angry that veins popped out on their foreheads. Is this even possible? Recruits, this person isn't a good person. Aren't you afraid of entering the tiger's den if you join him? Ling Wulai shouted angrily. He was no longer pretending. This was because his pretense didn't seem to have much effect. It couldn't compare to Lin Ling's straightforwardness. Many people also stared at the two women. They didn't believe that Lin Ling's lecherous words could move their hearts. This must be an illusion. However, the two ladies gently smiled and did not say anything. Under the gazes of the crowd, they directly held Lin Ling's hand. Moreover, they were taking the initiative to hold his hand. At this moment, everyone's hearts rumbled. Ling Wulai was so angry that he ground his teeth. Lin Ling, why? Even falling flowers flowing water soared and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Lord Lin Ling was truly formidable. Then, they looked at Ling Wulai mockingly. Ling Wulai had been putting on an act and thought that he knew everything. Now, he was embarrassed. Lin Ling, what did you do? Why did they join your barracks? Ling Wulai couldn't hold back his anger any longer. Hee, maybe I'm more handsome. Lin Ling finally opened his mouth, but his words were filled with mockery. Moreover, in front of everyone's eyes, he domineeringly pulled Yu and Yuer into his arms. This hug was very strong and carried Lin Ling's domineering aura. However, Yu and Yuer were delighted. They liked the feeling of being protected. It was so in the past, and it was still so now. Let me tell you one more thing, they are my women. After laughing, Lin Ling's voice became domineering and overbearing. For him, he could give up anything but his women, not even the slightest bit of improper thoughts. You. Ling Wulai was furious. As for the veterans, they stared at Lin Ling enviously. This was what it meant to be a winner in life. Because at their level of strength, ordinary women would not be able to enter their eyes at all. Only women with natural talent and beauty were what they pursued. Now, those two beauties were what they had been dreaming of. Yet, Master Lin Ling had gotten his hands on them. Not just one, but two. It was hard for them not to be jealous. Of course, although many of the veterans were jealous, they also thought that they were a good match. What? You want to chase after girls with your looks? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? You are holding a snuff bottle and sniffing it. You look like an idiot no matter how you look at it. Also, the armor of the martial gods battalion is crooked and dispirited. Did you not eat breakfast today? As a soldier, you don't have any aura at all. You are a disgrace to the martial gods battalion. Facing Ling Wulai's anger, Lin Ling's words were like a string of cannons. Me. Ling Wulai was so angry that white smoke was coming out of his forehead. What about me? Do you think that by acting cool, you are good at picking up girls? Bad, too bad. Do you think everyone is an idiot? Or are you an idiot yourself? As soon as Ling Wulai spoke, Lin Ling reprimanded him again. Ling Wulai was so angry that he almost went crazy. He even saw his own soldiers laughing at him secretly. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Let's go. After saying a few words, Lin Ling felt relieved. He held Yuer's hand and left. Seeing Lin Ling return with the beauties, the old soldiers were envious. However, the new soldiers were unwilling to accept it. However, since it was their first time here, they didn't dare to say anything. A few of them stared at Ling Wulai and Ling Wulai nodded his head coldly. Those new soldiers were going to join the boat division. Since their commander had nodded his head, they had nothing to fear. Look at his young age. How dare he put on an act? That's right. He just joined the martial gods battalion earlier than us. In fact, I'm afraid that his strength is not as good as ours. Putting on an act. Those new soldiers frowned and said. Lu Qingfeng and the others were shocked when they heard that. These new soldiers were not convinced by Lord Lin Ling's strength. When they were about to say something, they realized that Lin Ling was still wearing a faint smile on his face. He didn't care about those who questioned him at all. In fact, Lin Ling didn't care. With his strength and seniority, he wouldn't be calculative with those new soldiers. Look, he doesn't dare to say anything. He's not a man. In my opinion, only Commander Ling Wulai is worthy of the two beauties. Him? He only knows how to talk big. That's right. Those new soldiers were proud. The more Lin Ling kept silent, the more they thought that Lin Ling was guilty. Of course, although they were proud, they were also confident. After all, they were the most talented new soldiers in history. Lin Ling finally stopped walking. Previously, he didn't want to bully the weak. However, he didn't expect those new soldiers to keep talking. He turned around and looked at those new soldiers. He shouted angrily, "Who are you to criticize me?" His voice was like thunder. It shocked those new soldiers. Then, they flew into a rage out of humiliation. Kid, don't think that you're our superior just because you joined the martial god battalion earlier than us. You're still too young. One of the young men in blue said coldly. He wanted to join the barracks. Now that he had the support of Commander Ling Wulai, he had nothing to be afraid of. In the martial god plane, strength is everything. You joined the martial god battalion earlier, but that doesn't mean that you're stronger than us. If I respect you, I'll call you a veteran. If I don't respect you, I'll call you trash. Believe it or not, I'll beat you until you kneel on the ground. The other new soldiers also shouted angrily. Lin Ling had snatched Yu and the girls in front of them. This made them jealous. Moreover, Lin Ling was very young. He was even younger than many of the new soldiers. Naturally, they looked down on Lin Ling. Most importantly, they didn't believe that Lin Ling was powerful. These troublesome new soldiers. Chapter 2269. 60% boundary essence. Lin Ling's strength was number 1 among all the commanders, and his status was even that of a senior commander. Were those fellows courting death? They couldn't help but shake their heads. They knew that these recruits were about to face Lin Ling's wrath. Sure enough, Lin Ling's expression turned even colder. It seemed like he had no choice but to bully the weak. You want to bully a veteran like me? You want me to kneel? Lin Ling walked forward step by step. That's right. Of course, it depends on whether you know how to do it or not. If you continue to put on the airs of a veteran, then I can only teach you a lesson. The young man in blue raised his chin as if he was rewarding Lin Ling. Moreover, he saw that all the recruits were looking at him with envy, especially the two beauties who were looking at him with surprise. He instantly felt that his face had been lifted. What? You're not convinced? Let me tell you, he's the number 1 recruit this year. He can crush you with one hand. The other recruits were also proud. Lin Ling smiled when he saw this. He knew that Yu and the others were looking at him with worry in their eyes. After all, they didn't know about his situation in the martial god battalion. Therefore, in order to not worry them, Lin Ling wanted to tell them that he, Lin Ling, was doing very well in the martial god battalion. It seems like this year's recruits are very arrogant. Then, this veteran, will let you give me some pointers. Lin Ling's voice became low. After he finished speaking, he took a step forward and terrifying boundary essence erupted. It was like the wrath of the heavens, like the king of the army. The recruits were still holding their chins proudly, but at this moment, the boundary essence surged over like a storm, causing their faces to instantly turn pale. This boundary essence is at least 40%. The young man in blue's pupils trembled violently. He was arrogant because he was the #1 recruit this year. In his opinion, although there were many veterans in the martial god battalion, not all of them were stronger than him. However, he realized that he was wrong. The person in front of him was much stronger than him. The other recruits were also terrified. Lin Ling looked to be around the same age as them, but they didn't expect the difference in strength to be so great. They suddenly looked at the veterans around them and found that they were smiling mockingly, as if they were not surprised by this scene. Why was it like this? Moreover, when they ridiculed the young man, the people in the surroundings remained silent and even acted respectfully. This showed that the young man's background wasn't small at all. How could they not have noticed this detail before? Pa! At this time, Lin Ling had already arrived in front of the blue-clothed youth. He placed his hand on the youth's shoulder and said, "You said you can make me kneel with one hand?" That arm seemed ordinary, but it was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. It caused the blue-clothed youth to break out in cold sweat. The next moment, he knelt down with a plop and shouted, "Sir, please spare my life." He hated himself. Why did he believe Commander Ling Wulai? Why did he stand out like this? Mercy? Hearing this, Lin Ling's lips curled into a grin that carried a hint of evil. "All of you, kneel." Lin Ling shouted again. His voice made all the recruits' teeth chatter. All of them had to kneel down. However, under the suppression of Lin Ling's aura, they had no choice but to kneel down. As for Yu Yu and the other girls, they were extremely excited. They had not expected Brother Ling's strength to improve so much. Moreover, Brother Ling seemed to be an extraordinary person in the martial gods battalion. No matter where Brother Ling goes, he is not a mediocre person. Yes, I am proud of him. However, Brother Ling must have put in a lot of effort to get to where he is today. The two girls looked at each other and smiled beautifully. They knew that Lin Ling didn't want them to worry about him. At this moment, all the recruits knelt down with bitter looks on their faces. It was a spectacular scene. Commander Ling Wulai's face darkened. In fact, he had not expected Lin Ling to be so arrogant. After all, this batch of recruits was quite powerful and many of them had powerful backgrounds. However, now that Lin Ling had offended all the recruits, it was time for him to show up. In fact, his strength had improved tremendously over the past year. The reason was that Commander Qian Xian had provided him with precious cultivation resources so that he could kill Lin Ling. Therefore, he had converted 40% of his boundary origin. Moreover, he had obtained an ancient pot that could activate 10% of his boundary origin. Together with his boundary origin martial arts, he had converted 60% of his boundary origin martial arts. Lin Ling had converted 60% of his boundary origin martial arts. He was confident that he was not weaker than Lin Ling. Of course, although his strength had improved, he did not dare to offend Lin Ling because Lin Ling's position was higher than his. However, he had found an excuse to do so. "Lin Ling, you have violated the military rules by torturing them in private," Ling Wulai finally said. Lu Qingfeng and the others narrowed their eyes. Ling Wulai had not spoken up when the recruits had offended their superiors. Now that Lin Ling had punished the recruits, Ling Wulai had given Lin Ling a hard time. All the recruits looked at Ling Wulai expectantly. "Don't worry. I will take charge of this matter for you. I will tell the martial god battalion to convict Lin Ling," Ling Wulai said righteously. Then, he looked at Lin Ling. He wanted to see Lin Ling's fearful look. "Get lost." However, Lin Ling shouted at him coldly and asked him to get lost. "You." Ling Wulai had not expected Lin Ling to be so arrogant and unreasonable. He could not wait to strike. In fact, his previous words were to let Lin Ling make the first move. That way, he would not violate the military rules of disrespecting his superiors. However, Lin Ling did not make the first move and directly told him to get lost. You have guts. Just you wait. Ling Wulai turned around and left. He suppressed his anger and said, "You are lucky. If your position was not higher than mine, I would have taught you a lesson. Don't think that you will always be number one just because you are the number one commander. How dare a loser speak so arrogantly?" However, as soon as he took a step forward, Lin Ling sneered. Many veterans laughed at Ling Wulai's words. Ling Wulai had been humiliated in the Divine List arena battle. Their laughter had touched Ling Wulai's bottom line. That was the most humiliating thing in his life. He could not take it anymore. Even if he had to offend his superiors, he had to teach Lin Ling a lesson in front of everyone. His body emitted a terrifying chill. His boundary force roared like a dragon turtle. A jade pot with a turtle shell engraved on it appeared in his hand and shone brightly. A moment of pride does not mean it will last forever. Today, I will teach you a lesson. With the help of the jade pot, Ling Wulai pounced on Lin Ling like a deity descending from the heavens, 60% of his boundary force. Blossoming Flowing Water's expression changed drastically. In the past, Ling Wulai was weaker than him. However, today, his strength had increased tremendously. Instantly, Blossoming Flowing Water felt immense pressure. Lin Ling, be careful. The chess boy also shouted anxiously. The martial god barracks had recruited geniuses from all over the world. These geniuses were indeed monstrous and could create many miracles. Ling Wulai was creating a miracle. A loser in the past was going to rule the world today. Commander Ling Wulai. The recruits raised their heads and their eyes were burning with passion. To them, 60% of boundary force was something they could only look up to. Commander Ling Wulai could definitely teach that young man named Lin Ling a lesson. Chapter 2270. You are not worthy, are you afraid now? I've said it before. A moment of pride doesn't mean it will last forever. No one is the strongest in the martial god barracks forever. Kneel before me. Ling Wulai roared. At this moment, he was elated. You're not worthy enough to make me afraid. Lin Ling shook his head. He also drew his sword. The sword radiance was ancient as if it had been polished for 10 years. The terrifying aura made many of the recruits gasp. They knew that Lin Ling had been merciful when he taught them a lesson. However, they believed that Lin Ling would still be defeated. Use your sword. My dragon turtle heavenly flask specializes in breaking sword boundary energy. Facing Lin Ling's sword, Ling Wulai sneered. He was not afraid at all. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, Lin Ling's sword slashed down. Rumble. The two swords collided. Ling Wulai's body was protected by a powerful layer of world essence. In addition, the dragon turtle was roaring. That sword was actually blocked. Moreover, there was a mysterious power that was reflected back to defeat Ling Wulai. The flask was indeed powerful. Huh, Lin Ling, is this your strongest sword? It's too weak. Ling Wulai became even more arrogant when he realized that Lin Ling's sword could not hurt him. That's not necessarily true. However, Lin Ling said coldly. He shook his sword and the dragon chi from the dragon cleansing pool appeared on the sword. The roar of a dragon reverberated in the air. Lin Ling's sword also changed. It was like an azure dragon. Dragon painting finishing touch. The boundary energy of the sword increased crazily. 80% of the boundary energy erupted and swept towards Ling Wulai like a dragon in the sky. Kacha. The sword pierced through the boundary energy of the dragon turtle and was getting closer to Ling Wulai's neck. 80% of the boundary energy? How is that possible? Ling Wulai finally let out a cry of alarm. He thought that with his treasures and the increase in his strength, he would definitely be able to teach Lin Ling a lesson. However, the result was that Lin Ling's boundary essence had increased even more, reaching 80%. It wasn't just him, even falling flowers, flowing water, and the others gasped. Moreover, even Commander Che Jun and the others came over. All of them were dumbfounded. Pervert. In just a year, Lin Ling's overall strength had reached 80% of Jia Yuan. And 1 year ago, Lin Ling was only 60%. Whoosh! At the same time, the small pot was knocked away by Lin Ling's sword. The sword of death was only 1 centimeter away from Ling Wulai's neck. What pride does a stray dog have? Lin Ling's voice broke Ling Wulai's confidence. The faces of the recruits in the distance turned pale. Spare my life. Ling Wulai's body trembled, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. His previous arrogance had only been exchanged for abjection. He had lost a lot of face. Slap. Lin Ling patted Ling Wulai's face with his sword and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to teach me a lesson? I don't deserve it." If the sword wasn't so close to his neck, Ling Wulai would have knelt down and begged for mercy. Just as he was about to say something, a cold voice came, "You can't kill him. Otherwise, you will be violating the military rules." A figure walked over coldly with a few commanders. The leader was Commander Qian Xian. "Sir, help me." Ling Wulai shouted anxiously. "Shut up." Commander Qian Xian's face darkened. He had trained Ling Wulai to kill Lin Ling, but Ling Wulai turned out to be a piece of trash. Of course, he didn't expect Lin Ling's strength to increase so much. Otherwise, Lin Ling wouldn't have a good ending today. "He's one of your men." Lin Ling looked at Commander Qian Xian and said, "If you want to harm me next time, don't send a piece of trash." After saying that, he put away his sword. Although he wanted to kill Ling Wulai, he didn't want to violate the military rules. Qian Xian wanted to kill him, but he didn't dare to do it openly. Although he didn't want to kill Ling Wulai, he still grabbed Ling Wulai's neck and walked slowly to the recruits. Then, he smashed Ling Wulai down. "Kneel until the sky turns dark. If you dare to run away, I'll break your legs." Bang! As Lin Ling smashed Ling Wulai down, all the recruits were shocked. "This sir is really overbearing. The same goes for all of you." Lin Ling looked at the recruits coldly before he turned around and left. "It seems like we've kicked an iron board. Who is this sir? How could he not respect Commander Ling Wulai? I'm afraid he's a commander. Oh my God. We've offended a commander. We're courting death. However, why is there such a young commander?" The recruits all cried out in surprise. Qian Xian frowned when he saw Lin Ling take away the small teapot that Ling Wulai had left behind. This was because he was the one who had left the teapot for Ling Wulai. However, he endured it. "You're smart. You didn't talk nonsense during the entire process. Otherwise, would have scolded you too." Lin Ling looked at Qian Xian with disdain. Then, he walked towards Yu Yu and the others and entered the martial god barracks. Lin Ling was a commander and Qian Xian was a commander. Since they had the same rank, why would Lin Ling be afraid of him? Of course, Qian Xian was furious because Lin Ling was weaker than him. However, Lin Ling's rank was the same as his. Therefore, Qian Xian didn't dare to kill Lin Ling. Moreover, the heavenly dragon turtle teapot was taken away. He had suffered a double loss. Qian Xian harumphed coldly and left. However, he was getting more and more worried because Lin Ling's strength had increased tremendously after a year. As for Luohua Lushui and the others, they were still in shock. They looked at each other and smiled wryly. We can't catch up to him. Commander Che Jun shook his head helplessly. He could understand how Luo Hua Lushui and the others felt. At this rate, he will be able to enter the 3 academies in Qingzhou in advance after he completes the boundary origin conversion. Xian. Xia Tong said enviously. The martial god barracks was only a springboard for the geniuses from various worlds. Their real goal was to enter the 3 academies in Qingzhou. Only by entering the 3 academies would they have the chance to reach the peak of the martial god boundary. Sir, Lin Ling is too arrogant. At that moment, Qian Xianshen was leading a few people forward. The other commanders said coldly. Although he is arrogant, he is stronger than all of you. Commander Qian Xianshen said slowly, Lin Ling is too strange. He has an ordinary background but his cultivation speed is faster than ordinary people. He must have some secrets. Yes, his talent in learning martial arts is too monstrous. Sir, we can't let him go. One of the commanders, who was holding a bow, made a gesture of cutting his throat. No, as far as I know, the great general has been keeping an eye on him. If we act rashly, we will be in trouble. Commander Qian Xianshen shook his head and said, however, there is still a year before the great general sets out. At that time, we can find an opportunity to kill him. This is a good opportunity. In a year's time, no matter how monstrous Lin Ling is, he will not be a match for Sir. The other commanders nodded coldly and their faces were filled with killing intent. Don't underestimate him. In fact, if he did not have a feud with Tating County, I would not want to offend such a monstrous genius. Chapter 2271. Pressure of Mount Tai. This is a monster who is going to enter the 3 great academies of Qingzhou. Commander Qian Xian said and strode forward. On the other side, Yu Yu and the others followed Lin Ling to the barracks. Greetings, sir. On the way, the soldiers all bowed respectfully. Lin Ling nodded. After Lin Ling walked away, the soldiers were surprised. Are those 2 madams? They are so beautiful. I'm afraid they are the most beautiful in the martial god barracks. They are a match made in heaven with Sir Lin Ling. They are walking hand in hand. They must be lovers. I'm so envious. Many of the soldiers were talking. When Yu Yu and the others heard these voices, they felt a sweet feeling in their hearts. They were also surprised by Lin Ling's position in the martial god barracks. Brother Ling, I didn't expect you to become a commander. You are so powerful. Of course. Don't you know who I am? Lin Ling was a little proud of himself in front of Yu Yu and the others. Yu Yu and the others giggled. After that, the 3 of them entered the barracks. Lin Ling looked at them with an evil smile. He had not seen the 2 girls for a long time. He missed them. Brother Ling, what are you doing? Yu Yu and the others looked at Lin Ling cautiously. In fact, they knew what Lin Ling wanted to do. Lin Ling chuckled. He set up a soundproof barrier and started to make love in the barracks. After a long time, the 3 of them were lying on the bed. Lin Ling looked up with a warm smile. It was a good feeling to see his 2 wives again. It reminded him of home. If he did not have revenge, he would have gone home to take a look. Yu Yu and the others also cherished this time. They remembered everything that happened in the Gu Yen sect. At that time, no one would have thought that the ordinary young man in the Gu Yen sect would find the strongest world in the universe. All of this was like a dream. 40% of your dimensional essence has been converted. Not bad. After a short moment, Lin Ling withdrew his gaze and spoke. Yu Yu and the others' natural talents weren't weak, and coupled with Lin Ling's frequent guidance and the divine crystals he left behind, their strengths had naturally improved greatly at this moment. Moreover, Lin Ling sensed that their realm essence was very condensed. Presumably, their experiences in the myriad of worlds had benefited them greatly. What did you encounter in the myriad worlds? Lin Ling immediately asked curiously. In the past, when he comprehended the boundary essence, he had returned to his hometown, so Yu and the others should also have a good experience. The two beauties looked at each other and giggled. We're not telling you. Their tempering process seemed to be the same, and the only reason they could give birth to boundary origin seeds was this man in front of them. Because this man was the sky in their hearts. Great, you've learned how to bully me together? Lin Ling immediately laughed mischievously. After a series of caresses, the two beauties began to pant. However, Lin Ling quickly stopped and said with a smile, everything is fine at home, right? Everything is fine. Grandfather, Aunt Nianchen and the others have all cultivated. Has also made rapid progress. He is now wandering around. As for the devil race, ghost race, and god race, they are now led by the rainforest sacred land. That's good. However, needs to go out more often. After all, under our protection, he can only be a flower in a greenhouse. This is harming him. Brother Ling is right. Yu and the others nodded. Suddenly, they thought of Qian Xianchen from before and immediately asked. Someone from young master Qian Xuanchen's side, so he has always wanted to kill me. Speaking of Qian Xianchen, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. Right now, he was not strong enough, otherwise, he would have killed Qian Xianchen long ago. However, compared to Qian Xianchen, the person Lin Ling wanted to kill the most was Tian Liuli. After pondering for a moment, Lin Ling did not plan to tell them about Tian Liuli, in case Yu and the others were worried. In the following days, Yu and the others stayed in the martial god camp. The three of them also treated this place as their other home. And Lin Ling also took out the divine crystals he obtained from the divine list to cultivate. Moreover, he asked the soldiers to send some divine crystals to the rainforest sacred land, as well as some cultivation methods. He had to let his three disciples comprehend the boundary origin. Of course, there was also the small saint. The peaceful days passed quietly just like that. On this day, Lin Ling stood under a huge ancient tree. The ancient tree swayed and the leaves fell down like snow. Lin Ling held the sword and looked at the sword with his left eye. A mysterious Dao seal appeared in his eyes and swam like a tadpole. Xian Sword Record, the boundary origin martial art from the sword world. According to legend, with a single sword strike, it can cut through 10,000 realms. Lin Ling muttered to himself. His sword moved slightly, as if a dragon was roaring. He slashed out with his sword and a terrifying boundary origin force vibrated out. Swoosh! However, that sword was like a gust of wind. It slashed at the falling leaves on the ground, but it didn't even cut off a single leaf. Brother Ling, how did you do it? At this moment, Yu and the others walked over and exclaimed. Because that leaf, not to mention the power of boundary origin force, even the power of law could be easily cut into pieces. And now, Lin Ling was using boundary origin force, but he couldn't cut off the leaf. This was shocking. Because, I see the leaf as another world, so the sword can't cut the leaf. Lin Ling smiled faintly and said, when the sword is in the heart, the opponent is the only target. Everything else is fleeting clouds. After saying this, his sword trembled and a sword mark appeared on the ground. It seemed to have passed through the martial god realm and reached the universe. This sword had actually reached 40% of the power of boundary origin force. And this was the third level of Xian Sword Record, Mount Tai Crush. Every level of Xian Sword Record could increase one's boundary origin force by 10%, and the third level was 30%. This move was called Mount Tai Crush. Its power was enormous, but the disadvantage was that it needed a long time to prepare. And now, Lin Ling's entire strength added up to 90% of boundary origin force. However, Lin Ling's boundary origin force was only 50%. Your boundary origin force and talent have begun to fuse. Remember, don't fuse anymore. Only after 100% of your boundary origin force has been successfully converted can you completely fuse them. Lin Ling kept his sword and reminded Yu and the others. In fact, Yu and the others were able to have their current strength mostly because of Lin Ling's guidance, so they immediately nodded. Of course, if this was heard by others, they would definitely be shocked. Because, after the boundary origin force was completely converted, one had to fuse with talent. So, the earlier one fused with talent, the greater the advantage. And Lin Ling went the opposite way. However, only Lin Ling knew that it was too early to fuse with talent. In the future, when the boundary origin force was converted to the 9th and 10th levels, the difficulty would increase by 100 times. Oh right, that dragon turtle heavenly pot, you must carry it with you. It can increase your defensive boundary origin force by 10%. It is a 9th level immortal weapon. Lin Ling reminded again. Hearing this, Yu and the others nodded. Chapter 2272. Ancient City of Everlasting. And Yuer asked curiously, if we have the materials, will Brother Ling be able to improve? Of course. Lin Ling nodded. He had obtained all of ghost genius Li Xiaoyao's memories. In the past, Li Xiaoyao was an omnipotent existence, so it was not difficult at all. Then why don't we go and find the last material? Yu frowned and said. Lin Ling was stunned for a moment before he nodded. He suddenly remembered that someone owed him money. It was the people from my commandery that he met in the martial god realm. He could go and collect the debt now. Lin Ling took out a map of the nearby area. Finally, his gaze fell on a city. Ancient City of Everlasting. This city was very close to the martial god barracks. It was because it was close that it was safe. With Lin Ling's current strength, he was not qualified to walk around the Azure province as he wished. The next day, Lin Ling brought Yu and the others to the Ancient City of Everlasting. They took the martial god vessel on the way, so they did not alarm anyone. The Ancient City of Everlasting was an extremely prosperous city near the martial god barracks. It had a long history. According to legend, the Ancient City of Everlasting existed before the Azure province. The scenery in that area was extremely beautiful because the city was under a valley. It was also known as the Underground City. However, when Lin Ling and the others arrived, they did not feel that this was the underground city at all because the cave ceiling was bright. Looking from afar, the city was bustling as if it was a city that never slept. Cultivators in different clothes entered the city one after another. To them, this was a good place to rest. As soon as they entered the city, the sound of hawking came from all around. Lin Ling's eyes lit up. Just by listening to the sound, he found many good materials. Unfortunately, he touched the divine crystal in his ring and shook his head helplessly in the end. It's so beautiful. Look at the sky. Look. Yu looked around and suddenly pointed at the sky. The sky seemed to be carved with colorful gems. At a glance, it gave people the feeling of a fairyland. Moreover, colorful petals would occasionally fall from the sky. In fact, those were the rays of light emitted by the cave ceiling, but it made the city even more beautiful. It is indeed beautiful. Lin Ling smiled and held Yu and the others' hands. He also enjoyed this beautiful city. Guest, this is the map of the Ancient City of Everlasting Desolation. This city is also known as the City of Everlasting Desolation, a place that lovers love to visit the most. With this map, Guest can become even more familiar with the Ancient City of Everlasting Desolation. On the way, Lin Ling bought a map and spent a piece of divine crystal. Yu Yu and the others walked around, curious about all the new and beautiful things. Lin Ling looked at the map and finally saw the market of the only commandery in this city. It had to be said that this only commandery had a good foundation. They had actually opened their market here. After that, Lin Ling took out a jade slip and activated it with his boundary essence. That jade slip was made by Luo Yunquan and the others with a blood oath. As long as he notified them, the other party would receive the news. If they were close, they should be able to rush over very quickly. Moreover, Lin Ling wasn't worried that they wouldn't return the money. Because of the blood oath, the other party couldn't wait to return the money. While waiting, Lin Ling glanced at the map and then headed towards a certain direction. That place was a special place in the ancient city of everlasting desolation and was also known as the 100 Nones Market. It meant that if you had any difficult and complicated diseases, you could issue a mission in the market. If a cultivator had the confidence to solve those difficult problems, they would be rewarded. Therefore, that place was very attractive. After arriving at the 100 Nones Market, Lin Ling discovered that there was a sea of people here. On top of an enormous ancient tree, there were various mission slips pasted all over. For example, difficult problems in cultivation, difficult problems in alchemy, and so on. There was even information about searching for certain treasures, as well as some problems in the heart of martial arts. So interesting. Yu Yu instantly widened her horizons. Even Lin Ling was the same. Suddenly, he stared at a mission slip and instantly laughed. That mission was to forge the Star Sea Heavenly Zither, and the forger encountered a little problem in the forging. Therefore, the mission was issued, and the reward was a red cloth python leaf. This treasure just happened to be able to upgrade the level of the Dragon Turtle Heavenly Flask. I'll take this one. Lin Ling immediately took down that mission. The crowd was in an uproar. That mission has been here for 100 years and no one has been able to solve it. This kid actually overestimated himself and accepted the mission. Another failure. Just wait, it won't be long before he personally comes back to post the mission. Most importantly, he will be fined 100 divine crystals. According to the rules of the 100 Nones Market, if the person who accepted the mission failed, they would have to pay the fine and return in disgrace to post the mission again. Big Brother Ling, this seems to be very difficult. And Yue heard the voices around her and instantly frowned. It's just a small problem. Lin Ling said calmly. His words made the crowd even more disdainful, because everyone who accepted the mission said the same thing. In fact, Lin Ling had forged this kind of Star Sea Heavenly Zither before, and the Star Sea Heavenly Zither was not a powerful weapon. Its advantage was that it had a good sound, and it was very suitable for warriors who liked music to cultivate their martial hearts. The reason why Lin Ling knew how to forge it was because when Li Xiaoyao was recuperating in the valley, he had helped the Celestial Glaze forge it. The three of them immediately followed the map on the mission and walked forward. Before long, a hexagonal ancient building appeared in front of them. People entered the ancient building one after another, all of them wearing blue robes and looking somewhat noble. Say it, how much is it? Before they entered the ancient building, a voice came from the door. The young man who spoke looked a little rough and old. He wore plain clothes and looked a little ordinary. What was surprising was that his voice was a little immature. Sir, the 1,000 Leaves Light Mist Shield is a top-grade celestial weapon, and it was forged by Master Long. The starting price must be 50,000 divine crystals. The blue-robed young man at the door said indifferently, his voice carrying a hint of rejection. Because the young man in front of him looked a little old and wore ordinary clothes, he looked down on him. And this hexagonal ancient building seemed to be a place to buy treasures. Hearing this, Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air. In his opinion, the 1,000 Leaves Light Mist Shield was not a precious treasure, but it cost 50,000 divine crystals. It was too expensive. His reward for being first on the divine list was only 50,000 divine crystals. It seemed that this Master Long was quite impressive. It's only 50,000 divine crystals. I can afford it, but I have to forge it now. However, the rough young man frowned. Master Long is not free now. If you want to forge it now, you have to pay more divine crystals. Alright, I've said what I wanted to say. If there's nothing else, you can leave. The blue-robed young man immediately replied, his tone extremely rude. You're looking down on me. Did I say I have no money? The rough young man retorted. Huh, sorry, I just think you have no money. However, the other party also sneered. 50,000, right? I'll give you 60,000. If it's not enough, 70,000, 80,000. What was surprising was that the rough young man was wearing ordinary clothes, but he had a lot of divine crystals. Is it enough? If it's not enough, 100,000 divine crystals. Pieces of divine crystals were thrown at the blue-robed young man, showing him what it meant to be rich. The crowd outside the ancient building was also surprised. 100,000 divine crystals to buy a top-grade celestial weapon. Rich people could do whatever they wanted. Chapter 2273. Smashing people with money, you still dare to look down on me? You are only blue-cloaked world spiritists. What gives you the right to look down on me? Let me tell you, although I don't have any ability, the only ability I have is money. The coarse old man continued smashing divine crystals, causing the passers-by to feel extremely refreshed. That was because the several world spiritists who were smashed by the divine crystals all had dark expressions on their faces, but they could not refute him. You don't have any ability, the only ability you have is money? Lin Ling was speechless. That was a very great ability. If he, Lin Ling, had a large amount of divine crystals, his strength would have greatly increased. However, that was only for Lin Ling. That was because Lin Ling had Li Xiaoyao's memories and 10,000 elephant demon eyes. Even if others had divine crystals, they would still need to spend a lot of time to cultivate. You are very daring. You dare to act recklessly in this ancient building? At that moment, a man wearing a green robe walked out of the hexagonal ancient building. He was tall and thin, and he was playing with 5 jade beads in his hand. His fingers were extremely nimble, and as the jade beads rolled, 4 crystal mirrors appeared around him. It was extremely mysterious. Green robe. The crowd cried out in alarm. They knew that world spiritists were divided into white robes, black robes, blue robes, green robes, orange robes, red robes, gold robes and purple robes. World spiritists who could wear green robes were all people of virtue and prestige. Even Lin Ling was slightly surprised. In his world, he was a blue-cloaked world spiritist. Now, it was his first time seeing a green-cloaked world spiritist. Of course, that was before he obtained Li Xiaoyao's memories. Now, Lin Ling was definitely not just a blue-cloaked world spiritist. You actually smashed 100,000 divine crystals just to vent your anger. You country bumpkin, you have guts. That man said indifferently. He believed that the coarse old man was smashing divine crystals just to vent his anger. Lord Feng Wuhan is right. The other blue-cloaked world spiritists immediately flattered, their eyes filled with reverence. In fact, even Lin Ling believed that the coarse old man was trying to vent his anger. He must have taken out all his savings to vent his anger. You said I'm a country bumpkin? The rough-looking young man frowned. That's right, you came from those dirty places in the myriad realms. Don't think that just because you have some money, you have a noble status. In reality, you are just a lowly commoner. The green-robed man said again. That's enough. Try scolding me again. The rough old man had a fiery temper and shouted angrily. Didn't you want the 1,000 Leaves Mist barrier earlier? Sure, take out 200,000 divine crystals. Of course, if you think it's too expensive, then scram. Don't dirty the floor here. The green-robed man spoke with disdain. He turned around and left after he finished speaking. We are world spiritists, not merchants. The next time we meet someone like that, we'll just chase them out. At the same time, he warned the other blue-cloaked world spiritists. Evidently, he had taken the coarse old man to be a big head. I thought it was something great, but it turns out that it's just divine crystals. But for me, any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. However, the moment the green-robed world spiritist moved, the coarse old man threw out another divine crystal. 110,000? Is that enough? 120,000? The crowd was shocked. They had also thought that the coarse old man's savings would only be 100,000 divine crystals. Who knew that the coarse old man possessed even more money than they had imagined? Is 200,000 divine crystals enough? The large amount of divine crystals smashed into the green-robed man, causing his face to turn ashen. He had also overlooked this point. Of course, it wasn't that he had miscalculated. Rather, he had never imagined that someone would actually throw out 200,000 divine crystals just to fight back. You've embarrassed yourself, haven't you? You're not qualified to fight with me. The coarse old man immediately said complacently. He's indeed a rich man. Lin Ling shook his head inwardly. He knew that he had underestimated the coarse old man. After that, the coarse old man swaggered into the ancient building. The crowd of world spiritists did not dare to stop him. This caused the passers-by to feel even more refreshed. After Lin Ling shook his head, he also entered the hexagonal ancient building. That uncle is so powerful. Yu and the others at the side exclaimed. Hearing that, Lin Ling also nodded. However, at that moment, a voice came from ahead, I'm not an uncle. I'm only around the same age as you. The coarse old man seemed to have heard Yu and the others' words. At that moment, he gloomily walked over. But you look so old. Yu and the others were still astonished. That's because I've been cultivating. In reality, I've been cultivating for less than 1,000 years. Sigh, please don't call me uncle. It's very demoralizing. The coarse old man sighed. After sighing, his forehead was filled with wrinkles. Lin Ling almost couldn't hold back his laughter. To be honest, he also thought that the other party was an uncle. He quickly said with a smile, but the you from before was very heroic. These world spiritists think that they have some ability, so their eyes are above their heads. They can only be arrogant in a small city like the ancient city of Everlast. In a big city, they don't even dare to fart. Speaking of the matter from before, the coarse old man was a bit proud. However, he soon gloomily said, although I've smashed their heads and faces with money, I feel that I still haven't vented my anger. Look on the bright side. No matter where you go, this kind of people are inevitable. Lin Ling comforted and made the coarse old man nod. He stared at Lin Ling and said with a smile, Gong Yangjiang, from the Qing province Fuxing Bank branch. Wow! As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding crowd immediately exclaimed. The Qing province Fuxing Bank was a huge bank that spread throughout the 9 provinces. You're the son of the Qing province Fuxing Bank branch. I've seen you before. Wow! From the crowd, a petite figure suddenly walked out. It was Tang Yue. Oh! The little princess of Square Commandery, Tang Yue? Wow! Gong Yangjiang seemed to know Tang Yue and also exclaimed. You're throwing money everywhere again. Next time, I'll tell your father. Tang Yue narrowed her eyes and said, of course, if you tip me 100,000 or 80,000 divine gems, I'll pretend that I didn't see what happened today. I thought it was something big. If the problem of money is solved, then it's not a problem. Gong Yangjiang poured out the divine gems and was extremely forthright. Lin Ling couldn't help but be astonished. This guy seemed to be the son of a bank. He was indeed a nouveau riche. What about you? How much do you want? Gong Yangjiang looked at Lin Ling again, but Lin Ling shook his head. Although he was short of money, he didn't want money. You're ambitious, unlike this little princess. You're hopeless. In the martial god realm, problems that can't be solved with money are big problems. People who can't be bought with money are real heroes. Gong Yangjiang looked at Lin Ling with admiration. Him? Greedy guy. The jade pendant that my father gave me was stolen by him. In the whole world, he's the only one who dares to steal my treasures. Tang Yue was instantly unconvinced. You know him? Gong Yangjiang was surprised. He's a guy from the martial god battalion. Tang Yue narrowed her eyes and said, to put it bluntly, he's just a cocky little soldier. The martial god battalion is a place full of iron blood and passion. Even a little soldier is amazing. It's a pity that you can't enter that place with money. Otherwise, I'd go in and have some fun. Gong Yangjiang looked at Lin Ling in surprise. He didn't expect the latter to have such a powerful background. Chapter 2274. You are indeed stupid. You're going too far. This isn't the martial god barracks. Why should I listen to your orders? Tang Yue frowned. Lin Ling was deliberately making things difficult for her. The army is outside. You can disobey orders. However, be careful. After you return, your superiors will arrange for you to guard a remote world for 100 years. Lin Ling said indifferently. As soon as he said this, Tang Yue surrendered like a frosted eggplant and directly bowed. Gong Yangjiang's expression changed again. If he remembered correctly, Tang Yue was a commander. Could it be that this brat was a commander? As for Yu and the others, they rolled their eyes. Big brother Ling had taken advantage of their absence to flirt with other girls again. Amazing, amazing. Lin Ling, right? Why have you come to the six-sided ancient building? After Gong Yangjiang recovered from his shock, he immediately asked. Lin Ling did not conceal anything and told him the purpose of his visit. After that, they found a blue-robed world spiritist and Lin Ling handed over the mission list. That world spiritist frowned as he looked at Lin Ling and the others. He was angry at Gong Yangjiang. However, he was surprised at Lin Ling. Because this mission was so difficult that even Lord Feng Wuhan was helpless against it. Could it be that this young man had come to join in the fun? But he found that Lin Ling's expression was very calm, like an ancient well. Allow me to inform my lord. The blue-robed world spiritist said. Soon, he arrived with Lord Feng Wuhan. Before he arrived, his reprimanding voice could be heard. Milord Long is currently forging weapons. If there's nothing important, do not interrupt her. Otherwise, if she is displeased, both you and I will be punished. Feng Wuhan frowned. He arrived before Lin Ling and the others and was immediately shocked. It was that coarse old man again? However, he quickly collected himself and said with an indifferent expression, "Who's here to hand in the mission?" "Milord, it's me." Lin Ling took a step forward and bowed. "You're the one who's causing trouble." Feng Wuhan frowned as he stared at Lin Ling. In reality, he was also staring at Gong Yangjiang because he, a Grand Green Cloak world spiritist, had actually been humiliated by that coarse old man. Therefore, he hated Gong Yangjiang, and even hated Lin Ling. How am I causing trouble? Lin Ling was stunned. Bring me the mission board. The blue-robed world spiritist immediately took out the mission board. On the mission board, Lin Ling had also written the smithing method. However, Feng Wuhan did not even look at it. He crumpled the mission board into a ball and stepped on it. He said, "You're spouting nonsense. If you're not causing trouble, then what are you? You're wasting everyone's time. You have to put up this mission board." As soon as he finished speaking, he kicked out the mission board that had been flattened under his feet. Lin was a little angry. "How do you know that it's a mess?" "I know you're angry because you've been humiliated before, but you shouldn't put your anger on me." "Pa! Who do you think you are? I'm a green cloak world spiritist. If I say you're wrong, then you're wrong." Feng Wuhan did not expect Lin Ling to refute him. He pointed at Lin Ling and said, "You, scram. And the rest of you, scram." As soon as he said that, Gong Yangjiang and the others were enraged. The noise was very loud, and many people came to watch. What? They dare to question Lord Feng Wuhan? These juniors are crazy. Lord Feng Wuhan is the world spiritist in charge of the six-sided ancient tower. What qualifications do they have? Idiots. They're just trying to please the crowd. The blue-robed world spiritists said in disdain, causing many people to nod their heads. In the ancient city of everlasting desolation, the most famous world spiritist was Lord Feng Wuhan. As for Lord Long, he was from the three great academies and was just passing by. So, they naturally believed in Lord Feng Wuhan. The surrounding voices made Yu and the others angry. Lin Ling did not provoke Lord Feng Wuhan, but Feng Wuhan repeatedly humiliated Lin Ling. This mission was issued by Lord Long, right? What does it have to do with you? You don't understand things, but that doesn't mean others don't. Lin Ling's face also turned cold. Do you think Lord Long will personally come for trash like you? Scram. Feng Wuhan laughed. He did not expect Lin Ling to be so unappreciative. Scram. Don't dirty our place. The crowd also began to reprimand. I really want to smash you to death with money. Gong Yangjiang said with a dark face. However, Tang Yue beside him sighed, this matter can't be solved with money. We can only leave in shame. After saying that, she had already turned around. Gong Yangjiang did the same. However, at that moment, Lin Ling suddenly said to him, shout 3 times, there's too little sand in the sand wave. Gong Yangjiang was stunned when he heard that. What did that mean? Shouting 3 times, he was so stupid. However, when he saw Lin Ling's serious expression, he decided to gamble. There's too little sand in the sand wave. There's too little sand in the sand wave. He immediately shouted out loud. Is this guy crazy? Seeing that, everyone opened their mouths wide. Was he angry because he was chased away in shame? Even Feng Wuhan laughed mockingly. However, at that moment, a rumbling sound came from the top of the hexagonal ancient tower. Then, a red-robed figure jumped down from the stairs. Who said there's too little sand in the sand wave? The figure was about 60 years old. It was an old woman with unfathomable strength. Most importantly, she was wearing a red robe. Lord Long. All the boundary masters were shocked. They did not expect that the expert from the 3 great academies would take the initiative to come out. Moreover, she seemed to be anxious. Lord Long, what are you doing? Feng Wuhan cried out in surprise. However, the old woman did not pay attention to him and continued to ask, who said there's too little sand in the sand wave? I said so. At that moment, Lin Ling finally spoke slowly. The old woman looked at Lin Ling in surprise. She did not expect him to be so young. Why do you say so? The old woman pounced and grabbed Lin Ling's arms. Only she knew that the sand wave was the material used to forge the zither. Her anxious appearance made everyone's jaws drop. Because if you want the sound of the star sea heavenly zither to be good, the sand wave cannot be too little, especially on the surface of the zither. Of course, if you want to use it as a weapon, then try to reduce the sand wave as much as possible. Lin Ling slowly said. So that's how it is. Because sand wave is a very common material, I wanted to reduce the amount as much as possible so as to not affect the quality of the entire zither. However, who knew that sand wave would affect the sound? The old woman came to a realization. She had been forging weapons her entire life, but she had forgotten that sometimes, the more common the material, the better the effect. After all, what she pursued was the sound, not the power of the weapon. I'm so stupid. How could I forget that? After thinking it through, the old woman slapped her forehead and said. Seeing that, the crowd was silent. That young man said a few words, and Lord Long called her stupid? Who exactly was that young man? You are indeed stupid. However, before they could recover from their shock, Lin Ling's voice sounded. You're courting death. Chapter 2275. Eat it up, you're right. It seems that there's always someone to learn from. However, what the old woman said next caused all of the world's spiritists to become speechless. By the way, how did you know? The old woman looked at Lin Ling again. Lin Ling smiled and found an excuse. Because my father forged the starry heavenly zither in the past, so I know a thing or two. In fact, if you want a better sound, you can use other materials to replace the sand. Moreover, the forging method is to forge the strings first. So that's how it is. However, your father is the best blacksmith. Little friend, please guide me. The old woman was pleasantly surprised. The method is on the ground. Lin Ling pointed at the ground and laughed. On the ground, the mission board was still lying there. The old woman almost wanted to pick it up, but Lin Ling stopped her and said, this mission board was stepped on by someone, so it should be picked up by someone, right, Master Long? Not bad. Who stepped on it? Hurry up and pick it up. The old woman raised her head, her expression turning serious. Hearing that, all the world's spiritists were startled. As for Lord Feng Wuhan, his jaw almost fell to the ground. However, under the gazes of the crowd, he walked out nervously. I stepped on it. After he finished speaking, he bent down and picked it up. Moreover, he opened the mission board with trembling hands. During this process, he gnashed his teeth in anger. He had never thought that the young man would actually know how to forge the star sea heavenly zither. You stepped on it and picked it up yourself. How do you feel? Lin Ling looked at Feng Wuhan indifferently. Then, he shook his head mockingly. Actually, the method is in my mind. I don't even need the mission board. You. Wind Without Trace pointed at Lin Ling, his eyes red with anger. Lin Ling was deliberately toying with him. Lord Long, have I completed my mission? Lin Ling ignored him and looked at the old woman. Forget it, this mission has finally been completed by someone, there's no need for the mission list to exist. The old woman immediately nodded. There's no need to exist? That's good. Lin Ling's eyes turned cold as he stared at Wind Without Trace. Since there's no need for the mission board to exist, then you can eat it. I'll eat it. Feng Wuhan said in disbelief. Was he going to stuff this dirty paper into his stomach? Whether you eat or not depends on Master Long. Lin Ling said with a smile. The old woman stared coldly at Feng Wuhan. Although she didn't know what was going on, she didn't have the time to care about anything else. Do you want me to feed you? Her words made Feng Wuhan wolf down the mission list. He also bit a few grains of sand in his mouth. He immediately knew that those were the grains of sand left behind when he stepped on the mission list. Little friend, this way. Then, the old woman immediately looked at Lin Ling. Lin Ling nodded and followed her with Yu Yu and the rest. However, before he left, he gave Wind Without Trace a sarcastic look. In fact, with Lin Ling's current outlook, he didn't have much resentment against Wind Without Trace. What he had done before was just a small punishment. This guy is amazing. He actually did something that even I couldn't do. Seeing Lin Ling leave, Gong Yangjiang suddenly exclaimed. When he encountered trouble, he liked to throw money at it. However, the matter in front of him couldn't be solved with money. What a strange person. Tang Yue was even more puzzled. She now knew Lin Ling very well. He had a very ordinary background and didn't have any powerful backing. However, he had repeatedly done things that they couldn't do. To Tang Yue, Lin Ling was becoming more and more attractive. She couldn't wait to know all of Lin Ling's secrets. Lin Ling followed the old woman to the top floor. The old woman immediately asked for advice. Lin Ling smiled and explained. In fact, the Starseed Heavenly Harp wasn't a high-level weapon. Even a blue-robed boundary master could forge it after knowing the method. Sure enough, not long after, a pleasant sound came from the 6th floor. The sound was like the sound of nature. Lord Long was pleasantly surprised. Finally, it's a success. It could be seen that she was also a person who loved music. Therefore, she pursued a beautiful sound very highly. Thank you. Lord Long personally served the fragrant tea and handed it to Lin Ling. Lin Ling received it with a smile. Throughout the entire process, he was neither arrogant nor humble. This surprised Lord Long. Only then did she realize that the young man in front of her was somewhat extraordinary. After all, ordinary people who saw her would be in fear and trepidation. Moreover, even if she wasn't a boundary master, because she was the head of the 3 great academies, others would still be extremely respectful to her. However, the young man in front of her didn't do anything. He looked at her as if he was looking at a passerby. Little friend, where are you from? Lord Long asked curiously. I'm from the Qingzhou Martial God Barracks. I'm a senior commander. Lin Ling replied politely. Senior commander? Lord Long's expression changed. The Qingzhou Martial God Barracks couldn't be compared to the 3 great academies, but it was comparable to the 4 great commanderies. This young man was actually a senior commander. As far as she knew, senior commanders were some old monsters. This was the first time she had seen a young man become a senior commander. This meant that this young man was somewhat extraordinary. Little friend, your talent is very good. Lord Long immediately smiled. Although Lin Ling's talent was divine body, she knew that a person who could become a senior commander was definitely not simple. No matter how good your talent is, if you can't reach the peak of the martial god realm, then everything is fleeting clouds. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and suddenly shook his head. In fact, he had heard many of Lord Long's words. Even in his previous life, he had thought that he would reach the peak of heaven and earth. However, man proposes, God disposes. In the end, he had fallen. Therefore, he knew that talent was only one of the factors. If he couldn't reach the peak of the universe, then everything else was just empty talk. However, his casual words caused Lord Long's expression to change slightly. What a calm young man. Ordinary people who heard her praise would be smug. However, the young man in front of her didn't have such a mentality. It was as if he had encountered many storms and waves. Little friend Lin Ling, I wonder if you are interested in joining my resplendent academy? Lord Long suddenly asked. She was more and more optimistic about this young man because he had an aura that made her curious. If it was someone else, they would be incomparably excited because the 3 great academies of the Qingzhou martial god realm were the most famous. It could be said that if one wanted to travel the 9 continents of the martial god realm and pursue the legends of the martial god realm, then the first thing to do was to enter the 3 great academies. Every martial artist who came from there had boundless potential and had the opportunity to reach the peak of the universe. Now, Lord Long had personally invited him. This was a blessing that not everyone could have. Even Lin Ling was surprised. He also knew that the martial god barracks was a springboard. The goal of all martial artists was to enter the 3 great academies. Senior, thank you for your appreciation, but I like to take it one step at a time. However, Lin Ling still shook his head. His words disappointed Lord Long. Chapter 2276. Greed. However, my 2 wives are quite talented. I wonder if they can enter the Resplendent Academy? Lin Ling suddenly asked. Big brother Ling. Yu and the rest were shocked. Lin Ling was going to recommend them? With your talents, staying in the martial god barracks is a waste of time. It's good to enter the Resplendent Academy in advance. Lin Ling advised, making Yu and the rest nod their heads. Lord Long looked at Yu and the rest. In reality, Yu and the rest's talents could only be described as ordinary. However, there was an indescribable aura emitting from Yu and the rest. It was as though these 2 girls knew a lot of things. Alright, they are also good seedlings. Let them enter my Resplendent Academy. Lord Long hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. Thank you, Lord. Lin Ling hurriedly bowed. He wasn't worried about Yu and the rest because Yu and the rest also knew a thing or 2 about their cultivation path. Little friend, when you come out from the martial god barracks, remember to join our Resplendent Academy. My name is Ancestor Longpa. You can find me in the Resplendent Academy. Lord Long added. In reality, she was more optimistic about Lin Ling. After she finished speaking, a mysterious aura spread out, causing Lin Ling's pupils to narrow. His left eye quietly saw that this senior was actually a dragon that circled the universe. She must be a dragon that was born in the dragon cleansing pool. Next, the group chatted for a while before Lin Ling left with Yu and the rest. When Lin Ling left the ancient city of Everlast, Yu and the rest would follow Lord Long. Big brother Ling, we just met and we're going to be separated again. Yu was a little disappointed when she knew that she was going to leave. Lin Ling scratched her little nose and said, It won't be long before I go to the Resplendent Academy because I have some personal matters to attend to. Then you must come. And Yue held Lin Ling's hand and made Lin Ling nod. After the 3 of them walked down to the first floor, Wind Without Trace glared at Lin Ling. He was furious, but unfortunately, he didn't dare to say anything. The paper ball in his stomach reminded him that this young man was not to be trifled with. As for Gong Yangjiang and Tang Yue, they did not leave. After seeing Lin Ling, they immediately walked over with a smile, which surprised Lin Ling. I'm impressed, I'm impressed. I was just saying that I hadn't vented my anger yet, but in the end, you did it for me. You're really a freak that even I can't see through. Gong Yangjiang said excitedly. However, he stared at Lin Ling with curiosity in his eyes. You're the freak. Lin Ling glanced at him lazily and strode out of the hexagonal tower. Now that he had completed his mission, he would upgrade the Dragon Turtle Heavenly Kettle to a top-grade immortal artifact when he had the time. Big brother, where are you going now? To everyone's surprise, Gong Yangjiang didn't leave but followed Lin Ling. I'm going to collect the money. Lin Ling turned around and said. Then, he realized that Tang Yue had followed him. He immediately shook his head helplessly. Do I still have to collect the money? How much money do you want? Just tell me, I'll give it to you. Gong Yangjiang was surprised, as if he didn't know that the money had to be collected. You idiot, get lost. Lin Ling said to him directly. The few of them slowly walked towards the market of Solitude Commandery. The market wasn't difficult to find. After arriving, Lin Ling realized that it was extremely lively. The whole market was filled with various treasures of heaven and earth, and the sound of people hawking their wares could be heard from time to time. Lin Ling, Solitude Commandery owes you money. However, it's not easy to collect this money. Tang Yue suddenly said. Solitude Commandery was one of the 4 upper commanderies. It was obviously not easy to collect money from them. It's a matter of course to repay a debt. As for you, get lost immediately and don't follow me. Lin Ling replied lazily. I won't get lost. I'll go wherever I want in this world. What can you do about it? Tang Yue immediately retorted. She was fuming with anger. Lin Ling shook his head. He couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with this little girl. Moreover, he suddenly thought of the second dream and Xian Yuan Gu. He wondered how they were doing now. The few of them continued to walk. Soon, a luxurious building appeared in front of them. The entire building was made of gold and it was dazzling. This is where Solitude Commandery's market collects money. Everyone who sets up a stall here has to pay the rent. The market will also protect their safety. Gong Yangjiang explained as he stared at the golden building. He seemed to be very familiar with this place. Lin Ling looked at the other party in surprise, then said, the Luo Yunquan and the others should be there. In fact, he had already informed Luo Yunquan and the rest. Sure enough, when they continued to walk forward, they saw several figures anxiously pacing back and forth below the golden building. Who else could it be but Luo Yunquan? He's here. Luo Yunquan and the rest instantly laughed and they saw Lin Ling. In fact, Lin Ling was holding their blood oath. Therefore, they couldn't wait to return the money. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to progress in their cultivation. Have you prepared the money? Lin Ling didn't intend to waste time. He immediately walked forward and asked calmly. Yes, a total of 40,000 divine gems. Please check. Luo Yunquan hurriedly smiled. He knew that this mysterious young man couldn't be underestimated since he could summon thousands of troops from the martial gods battalion. Good. Good. The other party was very cooperative. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Just as he was about to take action, Yu Yu walked out with a smile and took the ring that contained the divine gems for Lin Ling. In her opinion, Lin Ling was the Grand Commander and should be dignified. Naturally, these small matters should be handled by their wives. What happened? Yes. However, just as Yu Yu walked out, a cold voice suddenly sounded. In the distance, a large number of figures arrived. They were all dressed in luxurious embroidered clothes. The young master in the lead had an extremely cold expression. However, when he looked at the young girl beside him, he immediately revealed a humble smile. Young Master Luo Zhansha? Yes. Luo Yunquan and the rest instantly exclaimed when they saw this. It was obvious that the young master had a high status in our commandery. On the other hand, Lin Ling frowned. He didn't expect things to turn out this way. Young master, we owe him money. Therefore, we're here today to return the money. However, Luo Yunquan immediately explained. Oh. Don't tell me you stole the money from the market to return it to him. The young master instantly frowned. He seemed to be the owner of the market. Young master, we wouldn't dare. We borrowed these divine gems from our friends. A total of 40,000 divine gems. Luo Yunquan said anxiously. However, this sentence made Luo Zhansha squint his eyes. 40,000 divine gems was not a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. He was a little tempted. However, when he looked at Lin Ling and the rest and discovered that the most powerful among them was only a rank 8 martial emperor, he immediately relaxed. Ask them to get lost. As for the 40,000 divine gems, let the market keep them temporarily. We'll decide after the investigation. Chapter 2277. It was only right and proper to repay debts. The pupils of Luo Yunquan and the others instantly constricted when they heard this. They'd noticed as well that their young master intended to covet their divine crystals. They had spent a lot of effort to borrow these divine crystals. They had wanted to exchange them for the blood oath, but now, they were going to lose it? As for the money they owed Lin Ling, this was also a matter of course. After all, they almost killed Lin Ling in the past, and Lin Ling didn't kill them. That was too easy for them. Young master, you can't. Luo Yunquan immediately shouted, hoping that the young master would take back his order. Pa! However, what greeted him was a slap. Luo Zhansha said coldly, "Don't forget that you are from my commandery. Don't think that I can't teach you a lesson just because you are stronger. Now, get lost." "Yes, young master." Luo Yunhuan and the others hurriedly lowered their heads. In only Mi commandery, their status was ordinary and could not be compared with young master Luo Zhansha. Then, they looked at Lin Ling with wry smiles. They wanted to tell him that they would give him the divine crystals later. Hey, as their master, you're actually greedy for 40,000 divine crystals? Aren't you being too stingy? Don't you feel ashamed? However, before they could say anything, Gong Yangjiang spoke first. He found this matter to be extremely unpleasant to the eye. After all, he also noticed that it was not easy for the Luo Yunquan and the others to gather this much money. Are you talking to me? Do you know where this is? This is my territory. Luo Zhansha coldly stared at Gong Yangjiang. His body instantly disappeared, and in front of Gong Yangjiang, a large amount of sand sprinkled down like rain, transforming into a figure that punched out. In my territory, even if you are a dragon, you will still have to kneel before me. This punch directly erupted with 50% of his realm essence. Gong Yangjiang's pupils constricted instantly. He didn't expect the other party to be so overbearing, attacking without any hesitation. He was simply courting death. However, his strength seemed to be very ordinary, and he could not block that punch. "If you dare touch me, I'll smash you to death with money." Gong Yangjiang shouted angrily, knowing that he was going to be injured. "Get lost." But at this moment, a fist also came crashing down. Boom! The two fists collided, and the entire market shook. Luo Zhansha was blasted apart by the fist, and endless sand splattered in all directions. However, the sand quickly gathered together again and turned into Luo Zhansha. "You've got guts." When he reappeared, Luo Zhansha's face turned grave. He had not expected the rank 8 Martial Emperor Realm youth to be so powerful. After all, he was a level 9 Martial Emperor. Furthermore, he possessed 50% of his world essence. "You have guts too. How dare you covet my money?" The person who acted was Lin Ling. "Your money? Do you think it's possible to take money in my territory? Or do you think you can provoke the entire commandery?" Luo Zhansha said coldly. He carefully sized up Lin Ling, as if he wanted to see through Lin Ling. Lin Ling took a step forward and said fearlessly, "You have to pay your debts. This is a matter of course. Even if you represent my commandery, so what? This guy is so powerful?" Gong Yangjiang, who was beside him, gasped. He had not expected Lin Ling to be so powerful and arrogant. Of course, even Luo Zhansha thought that Lin Ling was arrogant. His face turned ferocious and he said, "Do you really want to die? Previously, you only launched a sneak attack. It doesn't mean that you're more powerful than me. If you want me to die, it depends on whether you have the ability. Also, do you think that I used all my strength previously?" Lin Ling shook his head and his face turned even colder. After he finished speaking, Luo Zhansha hesitated. He also felt that the mysterious youth was not simple. However, he had said that he would not pay the money. Was he going to pay the money now? If that was the case, what prestige would he have left? Moreover, he also saw that the martial artists on the street were looking at him. This was indeed the case. Who is that guy? He's so arrogant that he dares to cause trouble in my commandery's market. He's not weak at all. I guess that he can explode with 60% of his boundary essence. This is a conservative estimate. Young Master Luo Zhansha's strength has always been known as a demonic genius. I didn't expect to meet another demonic genius today. The crowd was discussing animatedly and they wanted to know the final outcome of the matter. This situation undoubtedly made Luo Zhansha even angrier because he could not afford to lose face. What a waste of time. It's only 40,000 divine gems. Is there a need to fight over it? Young Master Luo, I'm just passing by. I'm not here to watch you fight with some lowly people. While Luo Zhansha was hesitating, a proud voice suddenly rang out. A young lady walked out coldly from Luo Zhansha's side. She was wearing a gorgeous brocade robe and exquisite earrings hung from her ears. As she walked, a crisp sound could be heard. When she walked out, Luo Zhansha's expression instantly changed. He immediately smiled apologetically and said, Miss Yi Tianwu is right. They're just a group of lowly people. Treat the 40,000 divine gems as a reward for them. The young lady nodded and picked up the ring on the ground. She took out the shining divine gems and walked towards Yu Yu step by step. She looked at Yu Yu proudly and said, Take it, you filthy lowly. Treat this money as a reward from me. Pa! Pa! The divine gems all smashed onto Yu Yu, causing Yu Yu's little face to be slightly dazed. Why aren't you picking up the money? Damn trash! When she saw Yu Yu's dazed expression, the young lady spoke again. After she finished speaking, she wanted to take out the divine gems from the ring and throw them at Yu Yu. However, at this moment, a ghostly figure instantly appeared in front of her and grabbed her hand. A pair of cold eyes stared fixedly at her. It was Lin Ling. Yu Yu was Lin Ling's childhood sweetheart and his wife. She was Lin Ling's reverse scale and no one was allowed to profane her. Therefore, Lin Ling was furious. Lowly person, how dare you grab my hand? The sudden appearance of the figure shocked the young lady. She stared at Lin Ling angrily. However, when she looked at Lin Ling, she felt a chill in her heart. What a cold gaze. However, when she thought of her brother and her own background, she immediately became confident. You lowly cultivator from the myriad realms. Do you want to die? The young lady shouted sharply. You keep calling me a lowly person. In fact, you're the lowliest person. Lin Ling shouted coldly. He waved his left hand and slapped the young lady hard on her face. Lowly person? He wanted to see how this noble young lady was qualified to call others lowly. You dare to hit me? The young lady touched her face and her face was filled with disbelief. It's only right and proper to repay a debt. I'm here to collect money. What does it have to do with you? You bullied my wife. You just want to prove how noble your status is, right? I don't believe that your face is as noble as you say. Lin Ling shouted angrily again and raised his hand to slap her. Slap. It was another crisp slap. Gasps could be heard all around the market. Many people could see that even young Master Luo was afraid of the young lady. They thought that her identity was definitely not low. However, the mysterious young man still attacked her and slapped her face. His courage was shocking. Even young Master Luo Zhansha's face turned pale. It's over, it's over. If Yi Tianwu's brother knew about this, he would be dead. I want you dead. Chapter 2278. Why wouldn't she dare? Slap. However, what greeted her was an even louder slap. You're so arrogant, telling people to die as soon as you open your mouth. With such a foul mouth, I'll beat you until you don't dare to speak anymore. Lin Ling's anger grew stronger and stronger. His voice caused the young girl to not dare to speak anymore. You're courting death. Young Master Luo Zhansha finally reacted and charged over with a murderous aura. Swish. However, before he could move, Lin Ling pulled out his sword and placed it in front of the young girl's neck. He looked at Luo Zhansha and said, "Try being arrogant again." This action undoubtedly caused Luo Zhansha to not dare to move anymore. He was afraid that Lin Ling would kill Yi Tianwu. You said we're lowly commoners and that you don't care for those 40,000 divine crystals. Very well, we're indeed lowly commoners. However, the noble you must pick up all the divine crystals and kneel before my wife. Lin Ling's eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at the young lady. His domineering aura caused Tang Yue to suck in a breath of cold air. She had never imagined that the usually lazy Lord Commander would be so terrifying when he was angry. Suddenly, she looked at Yu Yu with envy. Because she knew that Lord Lin Ling was angry because of Yu Yu. Moreover, this was the first time she saw Lin Ling lose his mind in anger. You want me to kneel? You want me to pick up those dirty divine crystals? Swish. The young girl widened her eyes. She didn't believe Lin Ling's words. If she did as Lin Ling said, wouldn't she be even more despicable? You can refuse, but the outcome will be death. You can try and see if I dare to kill you. Lin Ling didn't give her any face. The sword in his hand was filled with killing intent. Remember your actions today. Swish. The young girl knew that she had to endure it. Therefore, she picked up the divine crystals on the ground and kneeled before Yu Yu. Brother Ling. Swish. At this moment, Yu Yu was extremely moved. She carefully put away the divine crystals. She knew that Lin Ling was willing to kill everyone in the world for her. Let her go, she's still young and doesn't know any better. After Yu Yu put away the divine crystal, she immediately advised. Lin Ling looked coldly at the young girl and finally put away his sword. Then, he held Yu Yu's hand and walked towards Tang Yue and the others. You don't know who I am. If you did, you would be on your knees begging for mercy. Glaring hatefully at Lin Ling, the young girl suddenly said ferociously. She is Yi Tianwu, and her brother is Yi Xiaoshou. He is from the Yi family's martial clan, a clan that has reached the power of the central commandery state. Most importantly, Yi Xiaoshou is a member of the heavenly court. Tang Yue said with a frown. In fact, Yi Tianwu was not as powerful as Square Commandery, but because of the heavenly court, Tang Yue had to be wary of Yi Tianwu. Heavenly court. He's actually a member of the heavenly court. Upon hearing that, the expressions of the surrounding people changed. Many of them knew what the heavenly court was. It was an ancient power that spread throughout the 9 prefectures. The fact that a power could spread throughout the 9 prefectures showed how powerful it was. The heavenly court was created by martial god Qilin, Tian Yanlin. It has its own branch in the 9 prefectures. Those who can become members of the heavenly court are all extremely powerful and have a bright future. Tang Yue said again. The assessment of the heavenly court was very strict. Even people from the 3 big academies in Qingzhou might not be qualified to enter. To put it bluntly, one was a power of the 9 prefectures, while the other was a power of the Qingzhou. There was no comparison between the two. Martial god Qilin, Tian Yanlin. Yes. At this moment, Lin Ling's footsteps came to a halt. His pupils flickered continuously as that memory also rose up. Because Tian Yanlin was Tian Liuli's father. It was also because Tian Yanlin used to be an ordinary man in a small valley. But now, he had become a famous figure in the 9 prefectures. If he had not harmed Li Xiaoyao, he would not be where he was today. What? Are you scared? Seeing Lin Ling's silence, the young girl Yi Tianwu immediately raised her chin. She knew that the young man must be regretting it to death. Wait a moment, she would torture that young man to death. There are some things that cannot be done. Once done, you will regret it. She was waiting for Lin Ling to apologize. Sigh. Tang Yue suddenly sighed. She knew that Lin Ling was also afraid. At this moment, Lin Ling did not say a word and walked toward Yi Tianwu. Is he going to apologize? I think so. The heavenly court is not a place that anyone can offend. Even the 3 big academies in Qingzhou have to give face. Sigh, young people are too impulsive. Will he be killed? The crowd was also discussing. They also thought that Lin Ling was scared. Miss Tianwu, don't kill him yet. After I cripple him, I will hang him in the market and use him as an example to others. Luo Zhansha said in a sinister manner. He stared at Lin Ling and wanted to see how arrogant Lin Ling could be. How can I let him off so easily? He dared to humiliate me. I will teach him a lesson. Yi Tianwu immediately replied. She also looked at Lin Ling and said arrogantly, Didn't you have a good time beating me up just now? Do you still dare to beat me up now? My face is right here for you to beat. You lowly scum of the lower realms, do you still dare to beat me up? After she finished speaking, she lifted her clean face and looked at Lin Ling. She wanted to see if Lin Ling dared to do so. Seeing this, many people shook their heads. How could Lin Ling dare to do so? However, before they could say anything, a fierce slap landed on her face. Lin Ling was telling Yi Tianwu that there was nothing that she would not dare to do. Bang! Moreover, this slap was more powerful than the previous one. It dislocated Yi Tianwu's jaw and sent her flying. She smashed into the wall of the Golden Tower. At this moment, there was a dead silence around the market. The crowd was shocked. That guy knew that Yi Tianwu's brother was a member of the heavenly court, but he still dared to hit her. Moreover, he hit her even harder. This. Luo Zhansha also opened his mouth wide and could not close it. On the wall, Yi Tianwu slid down. She pointed at Lin Ling and shouted angrily, Do you know what the heavenly court is? Her jaw was dislocated and she almost could not speak. The heavenly court is very impressive. Unfortunately, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. The members of the heavenly court are probably not any better. Today, I'm beating a member of the heavenly court. Lin Ling walked forward. The murderous aura on his body was extremely dense. His aura was even colder than before. That was because the heavenly court was his enemy. Yi Tianwu looked at him and did not dare to speak anymore. Even her body was trembling. She did not expect that there would be someone who was not afraid of the heavenly court. But now, she was afraid. Previously, she was not afraid when Lin Ling slapped her face because she knew that Lin Ling was only being arrogant temporarily. But now, she was completely afraid. Sometimes, it was easy to kill a person, but it was difficult to make the other party completely afraid. Especially for Yi Tianwu, who was the daughter of a powerful family, it was even more difficult. But now, the coldness that Lin Ling displayed made Yi Tianwu lose her arrogance and shut her mouth obediently. That's enough. At this moment, the wind and clouds in the sky whistled. The roars of dragons were heard at the same time. 9 huge golden dragons carried a figure and arrived in a mighty manner. This person seemed to have come from a myriad of worlds. Every move of his carried the terrifying aura of a world king. Yi Xiao Shou. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.